Hello, everyone. It is your host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black, the one and only, here with another exciting live stream. Give me one moment to get the live chat up, and then I will start talking about what I did today. Today is January 11th, 2019. I'll be talking about January 10th, yesterday, 2019, and talking about all the stuff that I did on that day. So I woke up early. I did the first fan poll that I've done in like a hot minute. So I was happy to get the fan polls rolling again. Not a lot of people participated in today's fan poll, but that's okay. People have to get used to the fact that we're even doing fan polls again before they like really kick off. Um, didn't do too much early in the morning, other than the fan poll. I went to class only to find out that on the syllabus it said no class today. So I was there with a few other people. I got to see Matt Hawkins, who's a guy I went to high school with, and a few other guys in the classroom. And we were all kind of confused at why we were like the only people really there. And we were trying to figure out what was going on and whether or not we needed to leave or not leave. I got a new subscriber to the channel. Matt smashed that subscribe button, so he's now the 960th subscriber. Shout out to Matt. Thank you kindly. Um, for the fan poll stream, jumping back a little bit, we played Dueling Book, and I played Ventura Vizier. I still haven't really mastered that deck, even though I was the one who made it. It's like a custom card Yu-Gi-Oh deck. But I did a lot of misplays. It's just been a long time since I played Yu-Gi-Oh. And I would comment on my misplays like as I was like making them, where I was like, "Oh, I kind of messed up there. I shouldn't have done that. Oh, I could have done that." But it's good that I'm recognizing the misplays. Hopefully, I'll be able to get back into the swing of things as we play more and more Yu-Gi-Oh over time. Getting back into the Yu-Gi-Oh. But I had some fun duels. I enjoyed playing Dueling Book today on the stream. Sadly, I wasn't able to play Dueling Book with a few people who have been really, really wanting to face me in Dueling Book. Don't worry, if you've been wanting to face me in Dueling Book and you haven't had a chance, there's always another fan poll to where you'll be able to vote for Dueling Book, and if it wins, you'll be able to face off against your boy. So after I realized that I didn't have class, I came back to the dorm, and back at the dorm, I decided to work on rap stuff. I had a couple raps already written. One called Thumpin', I had already written at the airport, and the other called Meat Cake, I had written before I went to DC, but I didn't have a good take of it. So now both of those are up on the channel. They're two Rap Central videos, so if you hadn't checked those out, feel free to check those out. I've talked to Jared today, and one of our roommates isn't here anymore. So it's just me and Jared sharing the dorm. And Jared is working on a track, collaborating with another dubstep artist and Winslow, aka Aiden, for a rap track. And I may or may not get in on that, to where we'll have it with me and Aiden. It would be like a dubstep rap combo. I think it'd be interesting. I heard a little bit of Jared's beat. It kind of reminded me of Retrowave, which is like uh, a modern version of like 80s like synth kind of music. I don't think that's necessarily what he's going for. He's trying to play something more light, because Winslow likes lighter, like lo-fi kind of stuff. So it's interesting to like see how that's going. And I'm curious what Winslow's currently working on. I also got to hear a rap that Jared made. That's like the anthem for his micronation, and it's more or less just a meme, just memeing around. Uh, let's see. So I worked on the raps, and after I worked on the raps, I went to my second class for the day. I have that with my friend Chase, but Chase sits in the back, and I sit like in the very front of the classroom. It's a statistics based course, but there's a lot of terms that they go over. It's a lot of like learning material, but then you suddenly get hit with a bunch of formulas, which I was surprised by. Excuse me. It was like terms, 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 and then he gets to a slide and he goes, "Oh, you see all these formulas? You probably want to know these." And then like he just goes straight past it and just back into terms, and that really threw me. I wasn't ready for that. Oh, jumping back to Dueling Book, I keep skimming over things that happened during the Dueling Book stream. I talked to Ryan a little bit, and I even faced off against Ryan during the stream. And Ryan's interested in maybe hanging out this weekend, so that'd be pretty dope. So that's a possible weekend thing that could happen. I know Saturday I'm going to be hanging out with Colin and the gang, and we're probably going to play fighting games. And Friday, of course, is Dozer's birthday, so I'm going to be hanging out with Dozer for his birthday. So Sunday is like an open day for me. I'll probably do homework and stuff on Sunday, but I also don't have class on Monday. But I might want to get my homework done Sunday so I can better enjoy my Monday, if that makes sense. So shooting forward, class, yeah. So for class, it's going to be a weird math class where it's based off of concepts and math. So I feel like we're probably going to have a lot of like term based questions. And then we're also going to have like formula based math questions. Hopefully, it's not too crazy. Apparently, we get a formula sheet, but I heard it's one sided, which is kind of gross. It's like one sheet of paper, but you can't use the back of it. That sounds really gross for a formula sheet, but it's better than not having a formula sheet. And for business math, formula sheets have definitely helped me a lot. So I appreciate that, the fact that we even get one in the first place. Um, but it was interesting to not go to that first class for today because I just don't know what that class is like at all. I missed the first day that that class met because they also meet on Tuesdays because I was in DC hanging out. Um, but hey, not bad. Just being able to have a day where I only have one class, that's relaxing. I had that yesterday too. On Wednesdays, I only have one class. So to have 2 days in a row with one class was pretty nice. Um, but the statistics class wasn't too bad. Uh, I just feel weird. The homework isn't graded. You just turn your homework in, and you either did it or you didn't do it. And your homework has to be legible, so he has to be able to read it. So he's not going to check whether or not it's right or wrong. He just wants to see if you did it. But that's scary to me because if I don't understand what I'm doing, because I'm not the best with math, then I'll just get a bunch of homeworks and have hundreds on them, and then take the test, and then not do well on the test because I don't know what I don't know, kind of thing. So I feel like that's kind of weird. He also says he's not going to review homeworks in class. So you just get a free grade for your homework. You just like get it, and then you get the test, and that'll be the true test of your knowledge. But I thought the whole point of homework was for it to be like a way for you to benchmark and figure out where you're at and where you need to improve. The teacher, it's his first time teaching, but he seems like a good guy. It's just kind of weird. He will skip PowerPoint slides and he'll go, "You need to know that, you need to know that," but just not go over it, which is interesting. He's like, just make sure you read the slides and make sure you read the text. But then what's the point of lecture if you're just going to wave it off if you feel like it is important? I don't know. But like I said, he seems like a good dude. I'm just a little suspicious. I feel like I'm more critical of him because he's new and he hasn't taught before. He's not just like new to the university, he's new as a teacher. So that can be kind of a scary experience to deal with. But after class, I went down to the Charger Union where Matt was hanging out. Yo, Nani, welcome to the stream. It's good to have you. Don't forget to smash that like button. And me and Matt, aka Shadow, aka Mr. Hand, hung out back at the dorm. Uh, we didn't really want to watch the same thing, so we took turns watching stuff until we just didn't take turns. I have a bad habit of when I hang out with Matt trying to control what we watch because I just feel like we have different taste a lot of times. It's rare where me and Matt's tastes line up and we both like a show. So we watched a little bit of Young Justice. We watched this anime about a guy who gets sent to another world and he has like a magic shield. And the magic shield thing is like okay. Um, I wish he had fought a monster. It felt like they were setting up to have an interesting first episode because in the world he exists in, he's been summoned there because he's this legendary warrior, and there are monsters that are going to come in waves to attack the world, and they can predict when the monsters arrive by using these magic hourglasses. So I was like, oh, so in this episode, one of the hourglasses will probably run out, and he'll fight like his first monster. That's what I was expecting. And they have a scene where he's like training in like the forest and he's like getting stronger. It's kind of like a video game, so he's like leveling up and stuff like that. And I'm like, cool, he's like in his training phase. And I was waiting to hit a point in the story where it's like, oh, the hourglass is about to run out, and then see how he used his training and like his new levels in order to like defeat the monster after having like a challenging battle. but there's no monster in the first episode, and the first episode's like 45 minutes. I'm like, how do you have like a twice as long episode than like a normal anime show, and like not have like a fight, like in the first episode, like a legitimate fight? I thought that was kind of weird. Matt was like, it's setup, you gotta let it ease in. And I'm like, there are plenty of shows where like you ease into the plot, but they still give you like a taste of what to expect. Because I don't expect him to fight like the hardest monster ever. I just expected him to fight a monster to test his skills against, so that you can see how he's progressed and what things he needs to work on in the future of the series to get you like invested in the character and their growth, and to see the potential of them like in future episodes, and just didn't do that for me. Don't remember the name of it. I'm sure me and Matt will watch more of it in the future. Also, it didn't have a dub. I like to write while I watch stuff, so it not having a dub also was kind of like, no thank you. um, Earlier today, I skipped over this. I got caught up on Hunter x Hunter. The website that I'm watching it on is apparently grabbing the episodes off of Adult Swim. So where Adult Swim currently is in Hunter x Hunter is where I am, and I have to wait for it to come on Adult Swim and then eventually get posted to my website that I watch it on, so that I can like get to the next part. So I'm stuck in the Chimera Ant arc, and the king fight against Netero is like just now being a thing. So I'm working on that. Let's see. So hanging out with Matt. So me and Matt also watched the first episode of a Superman live action TV series that ran for 6 seasons. It was a black and white Superman show. And it was interesting. It had a version of Krypton that didn't look like it was like made of ice, which a lot of the interpretation of Krypton that I'm used to from back in the day are like weird crystal Krypton. It felt more like it was like an Arabian palace kind of thing, but they had rocket ships, and I was like, that's cool. I like seeing different versions of Krypton where they like play with the concepts. Um, so that was interesting. When Superman's rocket lands on Earth, his adopted Earth father has a different name. He's not John Kent. His name's like Eben, and his mom isn't Martha Kent. It's Sarah. His dad, when they find him, the rocket ship is like on fire. So the dad's like throwing dirt at it and shit, and he can hear that there's like a baby, and he tries to get the baby out. And it was just a weird scene. I've never seen Superman's ship crash, and it's on fire, and they have to like save him, and it's like a big deal where they like think he's gonna die because like the ship's on fire. And after he saves him, the ship blows up. So it actually was like a interesting, like suspenseful moment, and I dug that. A thing that happened on Krypton that I thought was really weird. Me and Matt thought it was weird. Um, Jor-El keeps pushing to his wife, Jor-El being Superman's real dad, that she needs to get in the rocket instead of their son. And she's like, if anyone's gonna be in the rocket, it needs to be our baby. And he's like, I don't want you to die. Get in this rocket. he's like, he's pushing really hard that like he wants his wife to be in it. And then when they finally decide they're gonna just send the baby, the hatch is very small. The hatch seems small even to put a baby in. So I was like, what? How are they gonna fit like full people in there? Like they were debating themselves going in the rocket, but there's no way they would have fit in that hatch. Like it didn't make any sense at all. The baby I think was a squeeze even in that hatch. So I thought that was weird. Um, the rocket goes off a ramp. I don't know why I want to share this, but they shoot it off a ramp into space. I'm so used to seeing old sci-fi movies where rockets just shoot straight up, so I was surprised that they didn't do that. Jor-El, when he's warning Krypton that Krypton's gonna blow up, he's like, I need 5,000 men and unlimited materials. He's like trying to argue that the world's gonna end, and he makes these huge demands, but he hasn't even convinced the other people that the world's ending. And I'm like, that's stupid. Like, no one's gonna help you. Even if you like had evidence that like the world was ending, if you like barely presented your evidence and immediately went into making demands, I feel like people wouldn't take you seriously. You need to first establish that there's a threat before you then talk about like mitigation cost. Because if you just throw mitigation cost in people's face, they're like, he just wants a lot of money. Why would we give him that? And then they just wouldn't do it. I thought that was really weird. Speaking of weird, for that statistics class, there's a 5 minute break because it's like a 2 hour class. It goes from like 6 p.m. to like 8:40 p.m. So I read like some comics. I read The Green Lantern #3, and I read a news article about the Second Coming. Real quick, I'm going to talk about the Second Coming. So the Second Coming is a DC Vertigo book. Vertigo is like an imprint that's independent of like the normal DC Comics continuity. So if Superman appears in a Vertigo book, it's not the same Superman that's in like the normal books. But most of the times, Vertigo books are like very separated. Like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman may not even exist in the continuity of a lot of Vertigo books. But in this book, there's this guy. I think his name's like Sunman or something like that. He's knockoff Superman. Jesus is sent to Earth by God so that he can become like the so he can learn how to be a better messiah from a superhero. So he's hanging out with a superhero trying to learn how to be like the one true savior of people. And it's like God saying that Jesus needs to be more like the superhero than he is. And the story is about them learning from each other. And I was like, what a weird idea. What a like really weird idea. It's very controversial already. It's popping up in a lot of like news outlets, especially like Christian news outlets. Um, and I'm like, it sounds like a really stupid idea, but I'm gonna read it because I think it's gonna be weird. The cover of the first issue has like Sunman holding like a criminal that he's like been beating up, and he's looking over at Jesus who's holding a criminal who he's like feeding like a loaf of bread, and it's just an odd image. But I'm curious to see if that book. I think it'll be funny nonetheless. Like even if the book is like has like a weird concept, I feel like it'll do interesting things with that concept that'll make it like worth reading. But I am interested in seeing what's going on with Second Coming. I also checked the DC Comics website, and that's where I learned that the Green Lantern #3 was out. Keep in mind, I didn't read the Green Lantern #1 and #2. I've never really been a big Green Lantern fan. But in the book itself is just weird and it has a weird premise. The Earth has been shrunken down and taken by an alien who's auctioning it off to a bunch of supervillains. The people of Earth, there's one person in particular who's like, "Where's Green Lantern?" And someone else is like, "Why would we want Green Lantern specifically? Like, where's the Justice League? We have a whole group of heroes who are normally just always on Earth, where Green Lantern's just normally in space, who could like help save us." And they don't really explain where the Justice League is. They kind of write it off, and someone goes, "We don't need a superhero. We need a super cop." And it's like a super cop. No one would say that. No one would ever actually say those words. So the auction goes, and a whole bunch of different villains are bidding, trying to like get their hands on the Earth. And what ends up happening is God shows up, and he does the highest bid to get the Earth. And then the Green Lanterns raid the auction after the Earth gets sold to catch the person who bought the Earth, but it's God. So Green Lantern's like, "You're under arrest," but it's God, so it doesn't matter. And I'm thinking to myself, why would God bid in an auction? That doesn't even make sense. Welcome back, Nani. It's good to have you. I'm talking about the Green Lantern issue #3. So Green Lantern kind of bickers with God as if he can just get God to like be arrested, as if he would ever get arrested. That doesn't make any sense. Um, so it's revealed that it's not God and that it's actually this weird demon looking alien. And he's put Earth in like a simulated solar system where it has a like fake sun. But that fake sun is giving everyone on Earth superpowers, and everyone's hella happy, and they're like, "Oh, thank you. This guy has like saved us." Because before they were like taken away from their sun, and like everyone was dying. The Earth was just like super fucked. So it seems like this great messiah figure has like saved them and blessed them all with superpowers. And the conflict is Green Lantern needs to convince the people of Earth that they don't want him as their god. And the guy who's pretending to be God is like, "What? I asked the people of Earth. Well, he says, I asked the life of Earth, and the majority of the life of Earth say that, like, they want me to be their god. And then Green Lantern's like, what? Who'd you ask? And he's like, I asked all, like, the bacteria. Because the bacteria are the greatest population of Earth. I mean, they greatly outweigh the humans. And when I asked them, they were all super down for me to, like, be their lord. And then Green Lantern was like, the fuck is wrong with you? Like, he has a hard, like, I can't believe this is a thing. So Green Lantern can't shrink himself down, so he projects an image of himself onto the planet. And on the planet, he's like, hey guys, um, what's going on? And they're like, hey, we all have superpowers, it's great, people aren't dying anymore, everything's awesome. There are like just no issues on Earth, like everything's amazing. And Green Lantern's like, well, the guy who gave you your powers, thanks to the special sun, he's a type of alien who just waits for planets to like ripen up. He lets them, develop and get better and better until he eventually eats it. It'll probably take 1,000 years, but in 1,000 years, you're like guaranteed to die if you guys just stay under the sun. And have, I mean, you'll have your superpowers, but you will die. He will just devour you all. And then the people of Earth are like, well, that's 1,000 years from now. Like, who cares about that? And Green Lantern's like, you'll all die. I know you'll already be dead by then, but you're gonna die. There's no way to get out of it. Uh, unless you just tell him that you don't want him to be your god. Just like deny him and you'll be fine. And they're like, nah, we're good. And then Green Lantern talks to like the president, and it's not a Donald Trump analogy or anything like that. It's just like an old man. They did like the generic president in fiction, where you just are like, it's an old guy, therefore the president. So they're talking to him. Maybe he was supposed to be an ambassador of the U.S. I don't know. But Green Lantern says this is what he looks like. And before you saw like this like bearded man with long white flowing hair, and he had like white robes and a staff, and then it shows this weird evil demonic creature, and he's like, this is what he really looks like. And the U.S. ambassador guy is like, well, on behalf of the U.S., we don't judge people by how they look. And Green Lantern's like, oh my gosh, he's literally the devil. He's literally just gonna eat the whole planet. You're all gonna die. I know you're gonna die anyways, but you're gonna die with superpowers. But that doesn't matter. He's like, you got to think of the big picture. He's like, you guys are crazy. Something happened. You probably have like some weird radiation poisoning from being separated from the normal solar system, so you're not in your right minds. And he uses his Green Lantern ring to project caution tape around the planet. He's like, you're under arrest. Just the whole planet's under arrest. And then he like defeats the demon guy. Um, and then the shocking ending happens. Nani said, so they got murked. Well, they would have gotten murked, except Green Lantern kind of made the decision for the planet. He kind of forced the planet to be saved. Because it seemed like the people of Earth were satisfied with just all having powers and having no problems. But Green Lantern's like, but it's a limited time peace. In 1,000 years, you just all die, and there's nothing you can do about it unless you choose for me to save you. And the people said, we don't want to be saved. And Green Lantern's like, fuck that. You don't have a choice. So the end of the book is really shocking. So at the very end, they open this door, and inside the auction house, there are a whole bunch of like people who have been drained of their life force. They're like corpses. They've been aged rapidly. So you have people who were small children, but they're now like dying old people, and they're all just screaming, kill me, kill me. They're all like asking to be killed. And behind Green Lantern is the guy who owns the auction house. And he's like, I come from a planet where we believe everything has a market value, so everything can be sold, whether it be like slaves or planets or anything else, or even like the life force of like children. And he says, as a part of like the Green Lantern code, you have to accept my customs. You guys aren't allowed to just say, because my customs are different from yours, that the customs are wrong. And then Green Lantern looks at him, lifts up his ring, makes like giant nails out of Green Lantern energy and impales the auction house owner and just murders him like right there. And all the other Green Lanterns look at him like, like they're startled. And then Green Lantern's like, "You saw that? That was self defense." And then it ends, and I was like, "What? What a ending!" That was dark as fuck. Like that whole thing was just really dark, um, and really crazy. I felt like that was a really good story. Even though it was weird, and it had like a lot of like weird twist, I liked it. I liked it a lot. It's written by Grant Morrison. He's the guy who's currently writing Green Lantern. Grant Morrison's also the guy who wrote my favorite graphic novel of all time, Batman Incorporated. So, can we really be surprised that your boy Morrison put the good down? He's always putting the good down. So I vibed with it as I was expected to. Um, I read earlier today. I read Young Justice issue 1. So I still haven't seen any of Young Justice season 3. But Nani said Black Knight and the Officers of Chipotle. That sounds like a B movie that you could see on like sci-fi. So I read Young Justice #1. It's written by Brian Michael Bendis, who's the guy who's currently writing Superman, but he's famous for writing a lot of the Ultimate Marvel books, and also he wrote Civil War, like Marvel Civil War. But he wrote Ultimate Spider-Man. He's the creator of Miles Morales, but he's been doing weird stuff at DC. I've been keeping up with his Superman run, but I haven't necessarily been like the biggest fan of his current run of Superman. I liked some of the earlier stuff. I think later on in the Rogol Zaar stuff, it was getting weird. So, in Young Justice issue 1, it seems like Impulse, who's like Flash's like grandson or great grandson from the future, can break the fourth wall, and I don't know why he can do that. Um, People in the media are like praising Young Justice issue 1 for really emphasizing Gem World and Amethyst, who are like weird fantasy characters in DC who exist in their own dimension, for like tying them into like normal continuity. And I was like, weren't they already in normal continuity in like the New 52, like recently, like in like 2011? So I just think it's weird that people are hyping up the fact that Gem World is involved in Young Justice issue #1. It's not that weird. Um, but it introduces Ginny Hex, who is like I think like the niece or the granddaughter of Jonah Hex, and she seems like a cool character. She's a gunslinger, and it seems like she has a space gun, but she's like a cowboy girl, a cowgirl. And she drives an old truck, an old pickup truck, and she has a space gun, and she's a country girl. You got Tim Drake Robin, but he's portrayed as being like a jump in and like fuck him up with a fight kind of Robin. I'm not saying that Tim Drake doesn't do stuff like that, but I've known him more of being like the tech wizard. He's like a strategist. I see Tim Drake Robin as being more like that. The way that he's being shown in Young Justice #1, he feels more like Dick Grayson, like what Dick Grayson would do if he had like a staff. So I don't know. I'm interested in seeing if Impulse actually does break the fourth wall or not. It seems like they're hinting at that. They introduced Teen Lantern, but we don't learn a lot about her. I only know about her from press releases. But her character is she's a teenage girl who hacks into like a Green Lantern ring or a Green Lantern lantern. I don't know which. I just know she hacks into Green Lantern technology, and that's what allows her to like use Green Lantern powers. I think she's really interesting. I feel like a whole series could be dedicated just to Teen Lantern. I'd love to see that. But right now, she's a side character and she doesn't get like a lot in the book. One of the biggest things that come into Young Justice #1 is that Connor Kent Superboy is back. Ever since the New 52 ended, we've had John Kent, which is the son of Superman and Lois Lane, and we've got to see him grow up and like become a superhero in his own right. Now we're getting Connor Kent, the OG Superboy, back. I don't know how to feel about it because I loved New 52 Superboy. I collected every issue of New 52 Superboy. So for them to like take that and just kind of throw it out the window, because the Superboy that we see looks like the 90s Superboy, which I've read a little bit of, he's interesting, but it's just not the same character at all. So we're seeing like this '90s Superboy getting thrown into Young Justice. And I'm curious to see how he'll act, if he'll be a lot like the '90s Superboy, who's like out for fame and fortune. Fame, fortune, and girls is like a big thing with him. And he's like cool. The whole point is he's like really cool. Um, so we'll see how that goes. I feel like I'm gonna end up liking it, like enjoying Young Justice, but I still kind of wish we got New 52 Superboy. I've been waiting for him to reappear, and when we finally get Connor Kent back, it just doesn't seem like it's the right Connor Kent, and that's what's throwing me. Um, but yeah, I mentioned my whole day like out of order for the most part, and I haven't even finished talking about my day. Me and Matt, we hung out and we were gonna watch Log Horizon. We were gonna watch episode 4, and then Jared came in. I showed Jared the different rap stuff that I did today. We talked about rap, and then Matt was like, we didn't really have time to hang out because you talked to Jared about rap. And I apologize, Matt. I was a bad host. I could have had like a better setup where we could have like all hung out and done something, or told Jared that I could talk to him later and then hung out. Because Matt, of course, has to like go home. He has to like go like all the way back to Emerald Ridge. I don't want him to feel like he like wasted his time or anything like that. But Matt had to dip, and then I talked to Jared for a little bit more, and then Jared went back to his room, and then I did this live stream. So that's more or less what I did today. So if I go back to the beginning and try to say it more in order, and of course I won't go into all the detail that I did before, but maybe I'll remember something about my day that I haven't mentioned before. So woke up, did the fan poll stream. That's when I watched Hunter x Hunter until I got caught up to where Adult Swim is. Then after that is where is that when I read Young Justice #1? I might have read Young Justice #1 then. I either did it then or I did it once I learned that I didn't have class. It was somewhere around there. But I did the dueling book stream. I didn't do too well with my custom deck, Venture Vizier, but I feel like it's because I'm rusty. I need to get back in the game when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh! I had some close games where I like could have gotten it, but I did hard misplays that eventually culminated into my defeat. And I've had games today where I got completely stomped. I was going against Ryan, and he played one card, a monster, that totally demolishes everything my deck does. My custom deck relies on searching cards from the deck and special summoning monsters, and he played Ryo, and Ryo prevents both of those things from occurring. I had like pretty much everything in my hand that I needed in order to go into my final play that like wins me games, and I couldn't use any of it. So that was a really good ass move. Shout out to Ryan for just completely dicking me over. That was a really solid play because he dominated that duel. He had it. So did dueling book, went to class, got to see Matt. I hadn't seen Matt in like a hot minute. Matt Hawkins, not to be confused with Shadow. Yo, John Mason, welcome to the stream. It's good to have you. Don't forget to smash that like button. I got to see Matt. Matt subscribed to the channel. Matt used to do a lot of rap stuff, so I asked him, "Hey, are you still doing like rap stuff?" And he was like, "Nah, I actually have like an internship, so I've been really busy." It may not be an internship. He may just have a straight up job. He's been really busy with work, and he just hasn't had the opportunity to do anything else. And I was sorry to hear that. But it seems like he's doing well. I mean, he's working, he has school, so things are going well for him in life. And I was happy to hear about that. But he subscribed to the channel. He was actually the 260th subscriber, so shout out to Matt. Appreciate it. John Mason says, slept all night. Yo, rise and shine, John Mason. Good to have you on the stream. I'm actually re-going over my day. I went over my day earlier, and now I'm like going back over, adding additional details that I didn't have before, while not repeating all the details from before. So we checked the syllabus after like 4 or 5 people got in the room and realized that, hey, we don't have class today in that particular class. So then I came back to the dorm. I think that's when I might have read Young Justice issue #1. That may or may not be true. And then I did a couple of rap videos. Like I said, Thumpin' and Meat Cake. are both on the channel. They're the two newest raps that I uploaded, and I uploaded those today. I wrote Thumpin' while I was at the airport in DC, and I wrote Meat Cake before DC, but I finally got a chance to perform both of them and record them today. John Mason said, I went to an art gallery today. I'll post pics on Amino later. Oh, ballin'. Did you happen to have any favorite pieces, like pieces that you really enjoyed? And then he said, oh, cool, no problem. Let's see. And then Nani popped back in. Welcome back, Nani. Good to have you. So did the couple rap videos. I really like Meat Cake, and I like how Meat Cake turned out. That was pretty ballin'. I feel like Thumpin' is okay. I think Thumpin' has a few bars near the beginning, but I feel like it becomes more or less generic as it continues forward. Where I feel like Meat Cake is it's pretty good. It's pretty good. There are a lot of natural flow changes in Meat Cake. It has a lot of good ad libs. Ad libs being like, oh, yeah, what? Come on. Like when you just like throw extra stuff in, but it's not like ad lib for filler. It's ad lib for hype. Like it really helps boost the song and it helps pace it well and it helps it flow well. So I feel like the ad libs really make Meat Cake. Even the hook at the end, which is not like a bunch of sounds but words, was like ad libbed. It was like an improv hook. I really enjoyed that. So check out Meat Cake if you haven't already. I feel like out of the two raps that I did today, Meat Cake was the better one, with Thumping being like not bad, but I feel like it's not the best around. It's just like kind of exist. Then Nani said Meat Cake. Then John said nice. He said lol. Let's see. So then I went to my statistics class for the night. Like I said, it was a teacher who had never really like taught a class before. So he was not only new to the university, he was new to teaching. I felt like his teaching style was a little bit weird because even though it's a statistics class, there's a lot of like terms that he goes over where you have to like know terms and understand concepts. And then there'll be one or two slides with formulas that he'll go, by the way, you need to like know this. And then he like quickly goes past the formulas. So you like see him for a moment and he's like, Ute. He just like takes them away. And then you're like, ah. I have tons of notes on concepts and I have like 3 or 4 notes on formulas, but it's a math class. When I hit up that test, it's going to be asking me a whole bunch of formula questions. It's going to be gross. So I do feel wary about that. I hope I don't get cucked. He seems like a good guy. It's just interesting to have a teacher who's new. Also, the homeworks, he doesn't grade them. You either turn in your homework and you pass, or you don't turn in your homework and you fail, and your homework has to be legible. And I'm afraid that I'll be like practicing the formulas in the homework, and I won't know if I got the answer right or not. And then I just get 100 on the homework anyways. And then you take the test, and then you don't know if you're prepared or not because you don't know if you're right or wrong. And then you get fucked over because you just didn't know that you had like didn't know the material pretty much. John Mason said, and yeah, from the pics, you'll be able to see my favorite piece. He said one of my lecturers hosted it, and I decided I'll visit it. John Mason's talking about the, it wasn't an art fair, was it? Art gallery that he went to today. And then he said, today a guy there said, we can come draw models for $40. And he said, just sign up and be over 18. And then John Mason said, now I thought two things that he said there'd be models for us to draw. He said, and also, well, I have to be over 18. But since I signed up. Maybe you guys might have nude models. That's a possibility. He said, then he walks off. And before he leaves the room, he says, oh, make sure your parents are okay with nude models. Yeah, that makes sense. And then John Mason said, I'm like, what now? And he left. Yeah, so nude models is a thing that you wouldn't want like younger people to draw necessarily because you don't want to erase their innocence. So when you said that you had to be like over 18 to like do the drawing thing, I kind of was thinking it's probably gonna be naked people. That just sounds right. Um, so then John Mason said, I thought I had to be the model. You thought that you would pay. Oh, no, 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 no. I don't think you pay $40 to get naked and other people draw you. If anything, you would get paid if you were a nude model. It wouldn't be a thing where you pay them to get naked and be drawn. But no, I don't think it's a thing where you guys would take turns being naked and drawing each other. I don't think that's what you're about to do. They'll have hired models who are nude and they'll stand still for you so that you can draw them. That'll more or less what it'll be what it is. John Mason said, so I had to rush and get it clarified. That actually is a good question. Are your parents okay with you drawing nude models? They probably are like, it's for art. Like, it's whatever. Or maybe they're like, no, don't look at nude models. I wouldn't know, which is why I'm asking. Um, and then John Mason said, yeah, haha. My friend Chase, who was in my summer internship when I was interning at the Center for Cybersecurity Research and Education, he's actually in my statistics class, but he sits in the back and I sit in the front, so he didn't really get a chance to like hang out. I already talked about Second Coming, the weird DC comic that's coming out that's about God sending Jesus to Earth to learn from a superhero how to be a better Messiah. That's gonna be a meme. I'm definitely gonna read that. It seems like it's gonna be like a comedy, and I feel like it'll be a funny comedy. And then John Mason said, "Huh? I know, right? There's a weird DC comic that's coming out. It's gonna be a part of the Vertigo imprint, which means it's not in continuity with the other stuff. You're not gonna see Superman or Batman or anything like that. It's like his own universe where God sends Jesus down to learn how to be a better Messiah from a superhero. And the superhero is like a knockoff Superman. And then John said, gets caught watching hentai. Oh, it's for art. Then he said, huh? And he said, wow, that's going to offend so many people. It already has. So it's not even out yet. And it's like controversial. It's popping up in news outlets. And it's popping up especially on like Christian blogs and Christian websites and stuff like that. Excuse me. So people are already offended by it. Um, that reminds me of something that I also already talked about on the stream, where Green Lantern tried to arrest God in an issue of Green Lantern that came out yesterday. Sorry, an issue of The Green Lantern, which I read while I was in my statistics class. There's like a 5 minute break because it's like a 2 hour and 40 minute class. It goes from like 6 p.m. to 8:40 p.m. So I read the Green Lantern number 3. I didn't read issues number 1 and 2, but the cover of the Green Lantern number 3 was God versus Cop, and I was like, Green Lantern's gonna fight God? What? That sounds like a dope ass fight. Let me check that out. The revelation is that it's not actually God. It's like a weird demon monster thing that's trying to fatten up the people of Earth. But it's not really fattening them up. It's more like he lets the Earth develop for a certain period of time, and then he like eats the planet. But he buys the Earth in an auction from a group of supervillains, and Green Lantern tries to break up the auction. Then the fake god goes, I'll only give you the planet Earth if the people of Earth decide that they like don't want me to like be their god. So Green Lantern talks to the people of Earth, and they're like, well, he gave us superpowers and he fixed all our problems, so we don't want to like leave him. And then Green Lantern's like, in 1,000 years, he's just gonna eat the planet, and then everyone on Earth is like, whatever. He can. We're all gonna be dead in 1,000 years, but we have superpowers and world peace right now. Everybody has superpowers. You can do whatever you want. And the way they got superpowers is that like the fake god gave them like a sun that like gives them powers, similar to how Superman gets powers from Earth's sun. Also, the way that this works is that Earth was shrunk down, and it's still shrunk down. So it's not like Green Lantern like travels to that planet. He like projects an image of himself to the planet because he can't shrink himself down to like get on the Earth. But in the end, Green Lantern goes, you guys are all out of your minds. He does the caution tape that you see at crime scenes with his Green Lantern ring, and he wraps them around the planet, like the caution tape. And he says, the whole Earth is under arrest. You guys aren't in your right minds. I'm going to save you guys. So he rescues the Earth from like the weird demon alien dude. And then he has to deal with the guy who was running the auction. So the guy who was running the auction is like, it's a part of my custom that everything has market value and that you can sell anything, whether it's the life force of people, whether it's like an entire planet or even slaves. And there's this room that opens up, and it's full of all these children who have been drained of their life force, so they've been rapidly aged, and it looks like they're decaying and dying. And they're just screaming, "Kill me, kill me." There's all screaming, "Kill me" at Green Lantern. And Green Lantern turns to the alien guy who owns the auction house, and he goes, well, the auction house guy, like the owner, says, is a part of my custom. And as a part of Green Lantern Corps law, you guys can't arrest me over like some custom shit. Like, this is a difference of beliefs. And just because my beliefs are different from yours doesn't mean that you have like the right to like take me under arrest for that. So he's saying he should get off scot free, even though he's been like torturing children and selling planets to supervillains because it's a part of his custom. Green Lantern lifts his hand into the air. His ring glows. He summons giant nails and he impales the auction owner with the nails. And the auction owner like dies. And the fellow Green Lanterns around Hal Jordan all are like, they're like startled because he essentially just killed this man who, for all intents and purposes, was legally like allowed to do what he was doing. You know what I mean? Because Green Lantern, all in all, is a cop. He's like a galactic police officer. So what he did by killing that man was just straight up murder. It wasn't within his right as a galactic police officer to take that man's life. And then Hal Jordan turns to all the Green Lanterns and goes, "You guys all saw that. That was self defense." And then that's how the book ends. And I was like, that was so dark. That whole book was really dark. I didn't mention some of the parts about how when Green Lantern's talking to the Earth, he talks to like Earth politicians, and those politicians are like, "Well, he may look like a demon, but we don't judge people by how they look." And I just thought it was really like the darkest part of it is more or less just the people of Earth going like, "We're okay with all of us dying in 1,000 years as long as we get superpowers now." And I'm like, that's so crazy. That being said, I would love a book or even a book series that's like there are these race of like demon aliens that steal planets, like shrink them down, and then they give them like superpowers, like the people superpowers, and then the people get to enjoy superpowers for 1,000 years, but afterwards they'll be like eaten. And each book follows a different planet as they try to use their superpowers to come up with a plan to defeat the demon. Because the demon is essentially like a god level being to them. He's huge. He's so huge that their planet is like a marble, and like to give perspective to like their size to like him. And he's able to do stuff like communicate with like the bacteria of the planet, so it's almost like he has like a psychic link to like the planet itself. And to see like different species gaining different powers from different demons, and seeing how they try to use their powers to develop their planet further in order to then like defeat the being, and each book follow like a different planet going against like a being. I think that would be really dope. Let me read a little bit of live chat because I'm a little bit behind. John Mason said, "Lol. Do DC imply that like Greek gods are real, right?" So DC actually has a multiverse map that Grant Morrison, who's the guy who wrote that Green Lantern book I've been talking about, is the one who like came up with in his book series called Multiversity, which is a graphic novel. You can get it as like a collected edition. But the complete map shows that like all of the different pantheons are like real things. It's weird to say all, but like DC has its own like thing called the New Gods, which are like these weird alien gods, and then Apocalypse, which are like weird alien demons. But then you also have Dream and Nightmare are like places, and then you also have Heaven and Hell, and then you also have like Olympus and the underworld, and they all exist in the multiverse as their own realms that exist outside of the multiverse. So whenever you see a Greek god, it's always the same Greek god because it's not like an alternate universe version. It's just those gods rule over all of those universes rather than each universe having their own set of gods, if that makes sense. So DC does have Greek gods just straight up in it. They just do exist. But so does like Christianity, like heaven and hell, and so does Dream and Nightmare, and so does New Gods and Apocalypse, and all the other ones that you could think of. And then John Mason said, "No, do." He's like, "Make sure you like go into detail about like the Green Lantern story." I saw that when it popped up, but I didn't read it at the time. And then John Mason said, "Not quite a bad deal though. The idea of having 1,000 years of superpowers on Earth, but then the whole Earth is like Eden and everybody dies. I don't know. I feel like the alien dude wouldn't preserve peace on Earth. I don't think he would cause shit, but I think everyone having superpowers would lead to people causing shit, like trying to do stuff with their superpowers that could potentially like harm the planet or even destroy the planet before it was to be Eden. And you think that like a resistance would come up to try and like fight back and say, no, we need to like have Green Lantern save us or we're all gonna die. Um, it was weird to see an Earth that was all like, no, we're all good with powers and just dying in 1,000 years. That just seems weird and unrealistic. But dark, really dark, most definitely. Um, but I don't think it's a solid deal. I don't think I could take 1,000 years of superpowers knowing that the whole Earth was going to get eaten. That's just like if I was given that would you rather, I would rather not get the superpowers, but at least we don't have a guaranteed death sentence in 1,000 years. And then John Mason said, I agree with him. Well, he said, well, I agree with him, talking about the auction house owner from the story. Because the auction house owner, he does have his own customs, and I mean, he was within his means within galactic law. He knew that legally there was nothing Green Lantern could do. And then John Mason said, I mean, we torture and kill animals, and that is a part of our culture. So it would be weird if, like, space police showed up to Earth and said, you kill and torture animals and you use them for food and processed and blah, 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 blah. And then they, like, killed us because of how we treat animals. Um, because you'd think that like stuff that's like customary to our planet, as long as we're not doing it to aliens, as long as we're not forcing our customs on people who don't share those customs, then it should be fine. That being said, I think the auction owner is wrong because he's like, you can't imprison me for my customs. But I think Green Lantern could have arrested him for him pushing his customs on other people. Because just because it's within your customs, that everything has market value, that you shouldn't sell someone else's planet because of how your customs work. Because you're forcing your customs on that planet because no one on Earth consented to being sold. You know what I mean? Then Kells said, I won't be here in 1,000 years, so I don't care. And then John Mason said, lol, Kells. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth it to cuck a future generation. Would you just not have kids then? Would you like refuse to have kids? John Mason said, wait, Nick, let's debate this. Okay, I'm down for the debate. I got my blanket here. I'm here for the long haul. Tomorrow's Friday, so I don't think I have to get up too early for Dozer's birthday. The festivities don't start until 5 p.m., so I got some time. But yeah, let's debate it. So, why do you guys think that Earth should choose the superpowers even if it means a guaranteed apocalypse in 1,000 years? Because I feel like, or wait, are we debating that, or are we debating whether or not the auction owner was in the wrong? Because I would say the auction owner is in the wrong, because he forced his customs on others. And then John Mason said, "Lol," because I mean, and he said, "Not that the guy." So you want to debate the guy? You don't want to debate the 1,000 years thing? He said, "Yeah, the auction owner." Okay, so he's in the wrong because he forced his customs. Because they couldn't have arrested him if he was doing that just with his own kind. But the fact that he goes out of his way to like kidnap aliens and even entire planets and like torture like children and shit, it just sounds bad. Um, like they could be like you're under arrest because your customs violate the rights of all these other people. Because in the same way that the Green Lanterns need to respect his customs, I think he needs to respect the customs of others and there should be consequences. I don't think he should have died. I think Hal Jordan killing him was a little bit much, but they probably could have like imprisoned him for like a period of time. And then John Mason says, "So, based on what I've heard from you," then Kells said, "Let's do auction owner first, then the superpower thing." So Kells wants to talk about both. I'm fine with talking about both. It seems like John Mason is about to put out his position. John Mason said, "Humans claim the earth for our own right. We take millions of animals hostage, kill them, eat, not all, but some, and waste the rest." He said, "We keep them in zoos, etc." That one guy, Kell, said, "I agree with you on arresting the auction owner." And then John Mason said, "Right? It is true that we do, as humans, claim the earth for ourselves, and we mistreat animals. We mistreat animals regularly. That is very true. So nothing that you've said is wrong. Um, so I imagine John Mason's going to use this as a pivot point and then say, so because of that, and then apply it to the situation to give the auction owner innocence. So I'm interested in hearing John Mason's argument. John Mason says, so then if you think about it like that, okay, so I see he's formulating the argument. I'm getting ready to hear you out. I'm open. Let's see. Right now, me and Kells are in agreement that the auction owner should have been arrested. I don't think he should have been murdered. I think John Mason is going to say the auction owner was in the right and that he shouldn't have even been arrested. And then Kells said, yeah, we do that to animals. I know it sounds bad, but like the animals can't do a shit about it. So yeah. Well, I think the thing about animals, I feel like first we should let John Mason finish his argument, but I would argue that animals aren't sentient. It's not that it's okay to do it because they're not sentient, but it's a big difference to force customs onto something that doesn't have customs itself versus to force customs onto something that does have its own customs, if that makes sense. So John Mason said the auction owner, being powerful enough to sell a planet of animals, humans, he had no right to abide to human rules. And if humans are powerful enough to take animals hostage, I see where you're coming from. And then John Mason said, and not be wrong about it. You know, if we're going to like torture animals, we should be, we shouldn't judge him on torturing us. And I mean, I see where you're coming from. So I feel like the way that I would defend it, John Mason's still giving his argument though. I still should let you finish your argument before I like jump in. He said basically, um, so my counter argument to that is that within his custom, his species believes that you can sell anything, and that's true. I think as long as he's not selling things that don't consent to being sold, that he shouldn't. Let's see. Oh wait, hold up. John Mason said a man ready to kill should be ready to be killed. You know, a man ready to kill should be ready to be killed. That's like a live by the sword, die by the sword kind of thing. But you're right. That's actually 100% true. Anyone who enters a fight should be willing to lose it just as they are willing to win it. So that's just life. That's definitely true. Excuse me. So I don't think your argument's wrong. But I'm taking the argument not from the standpoint of morality or human law versus alien law, but galactic law and what like should happen legally through galactic law. So galactic law states you can't arrest someone for simply practicing their custom, right? So as long as someone's practicing their custom, they're like within the right to like do what they're doing. Um, I still think galactic law should say that if you're imposing your custom on others, right? You're forcing other people who can't consent to follow in your custom, that you're messing up. You're like going too far. Because as soon as you're like, well, my people say that we can sell anyone, and then you say, well, I don't want to be sold, I think you're now imposing your customs on others. You're taking away their rights. And by doing so, I think you should be arrested for that. Um, I do think you're 100% right, though. I don't think your argument's wrong, but I just feel like your argument is based on like morality. Like the idea that regardless of sentience, what we do to animals is wrong, and what the auction owner did to us is wrong. But if we take what we do to animals as being okay, then we should be equally okay with it happening to us, kind of thing. Because we could argue that the alien guy sees us the same way we see the animals, which is what you're saying. He just sees us as something to be sold. So I do think you're 100% right, John Mason. I just feel like legally, Green Lantern should be able to do something. They acted like he couldn't do anything but kill him if he wanted to get justice. But I feel like that's not true. Even if he couldn't arrest him, he could have like left him like stranded somewhere where he could live, but he'd be like isolated and he wouldn't be able to keep doing his auctions anymore, and it would essentially be a prison. It would be like solitude confinement or like something like that. Solitary confinement. That one guy, Kel, said also animals don't have real consciousness. So granted they're alive, but they can't even recognize they're alive in the way that we do. John Mason's argument supposes that that doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Even if, because you could always just argue that the alien is like of a higher intelligence than we are, and he could argue that there are things that he knows of that we couldn't even comprehend, so that because of that, he's at like a higher order sentience or like a higher level intelligence, so that he should just be allowed to sell us. So, I still think John Mason's argument's right. It's just, I don't think it's like legally right. You know what I mean? Hal Jordan should have been able to do something other than kill him. When John Mason said, I get you, he said, yep, that is what I'm saying. And then Kells said, so in my opinion, until a new creature is discovered or from evolution, I see where Kells is going, I think. If I'm going to let Kells like finish off his argument, because he has to type it. Also, I just realized you guys type multiple messages a minute. That makes sense because sometimes when I get behind in the live chat, I get behind. So I can see how when like 5 or 6 people are online, I can get like lost. Oh, also, don't forget to smash that like button if you haven't already. And after we debate the auction house guy, we can debate the 1,000 years thing because I am really interested in that. John Mason said, lol. Then Kels said, sorry, I lost where I was going. Lol. Oh, no problem, Kels. Kels was gonna say, so in my opinion, until a new creature is discovered or from evolution that's like of a higher sentience than we are, kind of thing. I think you were gonna go into the route that I described a moment ago. That that we shouldn't care about it. But once we realize that there are things higher than us, we should start treating animals better because we just realize it's a hierarchy. It's not just you have sentience or you don't. It's like you can you can have varying levels of sentience, but regardless, all life matters. Once we hit that mind frame, it changes perspective. I think that's what Kels was gonna say and argue, but I'm not sure. John Mason said, "Oh, I'll start writing that now." He said, "Okay, I stand with taking the deal. I stand with taking the deal." Oh, wait, John Mason stands with taking the deal. So have superpowers for 1,000 years, but then we all get eaten by like a giant demon alien. I stand with not taking the deal. My argument for not taking the deal is that if you don't take the deal, there are no downsides. The demon alien straight up was like, if they just don't want to be here, I'll let them go. So it's not like you get eaten anyways if you don't take the deal. We don't get superpowers, but now we're aware there's a way to have them. Like, we know that if we have that type of star or whatever, that our whole planet can just have powers. So if Green Lantern wanted to, right, when he saved the Earth, if he had also grabbed that star, and then when he like regrew the Earth, he regrew it with that star, maybe like somewhere else, we could have still had superpowers and not have to worry about being eaten. Of course, he would have probably had to have fought the alien to take the star, but I think he had to fight the alien anyways to save them. You know, all we really need is the star. So all the people of Earth would have had to have done is say, beat the alien, take the star, we all get to have the powers. Then Kel said, just to be crystal clear, we're moving on to the deal thing, right? Yes, we have moved on from the auction house thing to the deal thing. Um, I was trying to think, where did we land on the deal thing? I think we landed on saying everybody was right. Everybody was right in their own way, but we kind of have different arguments. And then John Mason said, wait, Nick, hear me out. Oh, I am totally hearing you out. Uh, like, I am listening. I was just sharing it because I knew that you still needed to, like, type it, but I'm definitely going to still listen to everybody's point. So John Mason said, wait, Nick, hear me out. Think about it, right? Okay, I'm with you, John Mason. I'm thinking. I'm ready to hear your argument. Um, the only other argument that I would have, other than just kill the alien and take the star so that we could all keep the powers anyways, so you get the best of both worlds and you don't get eaten in 1,000 years, would be to use the superpowers to find a way to beat the alien and then you just keep having superpowers forever. I think that would be dope. But I feel like any ending where humanity just accepts being eaten in 1,000 years is a shitty ending. I don't think that's fair. Because you'll go from having powers to being absolutely powerless. And then John Mason said, right, and like all caps. He said, that's what I was going to say. And then Kel said, honestly, I think we should just kill the alien if we all have powers. I mean, I think we can do it if we all just wail on it. I don't know if we could fight the alien. I think that's my issue. John Mason said, why not help Jordan fight the alien with the powers? That actually is a solid argument. I see where you're coming from there. Because if Hal Jordan is strong enough to beat the alien, right? And then everyone on Earth has superpowers. Then if everyone on Earth could fly off of the planet and fight the alien alongside Hal Jordan, like if Hal Jordan already could beat it, then to just help his odds, they could all work together to beat it. And it would be less than 7 billion people because it wouldn't be like children necessarily. I don't think we would want our babies flying into space and like fighting him. But if it works like how the Superman powers work, where it's like a special sun that gives everyone the powers, then our animals would get powers too. So we could probably have like attack dogs and shit, just all kinds of stuff, just flying out, just fucking up the giant alien. I think the issue would be breathing. I think even with superpowers, they won't necessarily breathe in space. Sometimes Superman can breathe in space, and sometimes they claim he needs oxygen. It's just really iffy. I have a Superman encyclopedia from 2015 that says that Superman needs oxygen to breathe in space. And I have an encyclopedia that came out like a few years later, and it was a DC Comics encyclopedia. It's like a complete guide to the DC universe, and it says Superman as one of his powers can breathe in space. So it's debatable whether or not we could have all worked together to defeat the alien or not. But I agree. The big issue is just getting rid of the alien. And as soon as you have gotten rid of the alien, you just don't have to worry about it anymore. Keep in mind that alien dwarfs us. Even if like every person on the planet like flew out to fight that alien, Earth, just the planet Earth is the size of a marble in that alien's hands. I think if we tried to like kill that alien, he could just be like he could just get the whole planet and we might all have superpowers. But if our scale to his scale is like that big of a difference, can we really fight back even with powers? Do you think if he tried to crush the earth in his hand that we could pry his fingers off and we wouldn't just get killed by the impact? You know, I think that'd be crazy. Then John Mason said, lol, Then Kell said the real question is, what would society change due to superpowers? I think we would have a World War III of superpowers edition and Knuckles featuring Dante from Devil May Cry series. I could see us like potentially having a war with the superpowers because I think people will still be greedy. People will still like bad people are still bad, but now they have powers. But now everyone else has powers too. So we're all on an even playing field, but we're all better than we were before. So it's weird. Also, JV Dones, everybody say happy birthday to JV Dones. It's JV Dones' birthday. I'm going to be going to his party today at 5 p.m. later on. So JV Dones said it's based on who's writing Superman. His powers aren't consistent. Agreed? And then John Mason said, haha, Kells. And then he said, hey, JV Dones. He said it may be like My Hero Academia. And he said, "Oh, happy birthday, JV." It would be even more. It would be less like My Hero Academia, only because everyone got powers. The only way to not have powers in this world would be if you weren't exposed to the sun. But if you didn't have the sun, you would probably just slowly die. um, because the Earth has been moved to a space where there is like a superpowered sun. By the way, that's like the second comic I've read. I was gonna say this year, but the Superman comic I read was actually technically last year. In the last few months, where the Earth has been shrunk and moved somewhere, and one superhero had to like find a way to save the day, but with a team. Superman did that to save the Earth from the Phantom Zone last year, and then Green Lantern did that this year, but he's saving it from fake God. And then Kel said, but after the superpower war, it would basically turn into My Hero Academia, but without the 20% no power thing. Yeah, everyone would just have powers. Do you think. I think the issue, right, is that the way that the powers work is kind of like how Superman's powers work. So you know how like Superman and Supergirl and Crypto the super dog and Beepo the monkey and Streaky the cat and the super horse, I don't remember his name. They all are like Kryptonian. I think the super horse is a magic thing. I don't think he's Kryptonian, but he's supposed to be Kryptonian. They all share the same basic set of powers. It's like that, where like everyone on Earth got the same abilities. It's not like people have different powers. So I feel like the issue would be, and then John Mason said, wait, it's not like everyone gets different powers. Yeah, everyone got the same abilities. So everyone on Earth got superpowers, but they're essentially like all Superman equivalent, essentially. Yeah. So I think part of the issue is if you had superpowers before you were like in that situation, you now have even more superpowers now. So I think there still would be an imbalance. Like everyone would be Superman, but if you were anything before that, you're Superman plus. So then you're just like dicking on everybody. It doesn't matter if everyone's Superman if before you were the Flash and now you're the Flash with Superman powers. You're now still better than most other people because you have the Speed Force. And then John Mason said, wait, but that helps my argument more. And then he said, wait. He's like, so if everyone's like Superman level, can't they like dick the demon? I think that's where he's going to go with it, but we'll see what his argument is. I mean, if everyone's like Superman level, that like demon monster thing still had like scale on us. I don't know. The demon monster thing seemed really powerful for what it was. Green Lantern kind of beats him, I think, but I don't remember seeing the fight. Like I don't remember how Green Lantern beats him. I just know he ends up taking the Earth. Kel said, going back to stopping the monster thing, is that if we get all the Gucci superpower guys to team up with other superheroes from other planets, we could probably beat them. We're isolated, sadly. So in this situation, Earth is like shrunk and it's been put in a fake like solar system that was created by the demon dude. So it's not like we could call out to other planets and be like, yo, other planets, help us. Now, the Justice League should be able to help, but they're not in the story. They get mentioned and then they're written off as if like they don't matter and they never come up. And then JV Doan said if everyone had Superman powers, the world wouldn't be destroyed. Too many conflicts that would turn too destructive. And then he corrected it to the world would be destroyed. I agree. I think if everyone had Superman powers, the smallest of conflicts become a big deal. Even if just two people get in a disagreement, if they like fight, it could potentially like destroy an entire country or worse. A lack of restraint can just destroy everything. John Mason said, if we're all super strong, then we're all strong as normal, if you get what I'm saying. I get what you're saying. That's a big problem that I have with Man of Steel. In Man of Steel, Superman fights General Zod, and they're both super powered people, but as they fight, they're like launching each other through buildings and shit like that. Their punches, when they hit each other, they should just hit each other. It should be like the same way that we fight with our normal human strength. Two really strong guys, when they hit each other, they take the punches. If a strong guy hits another strong guy, he just hits him. If a strong guy hits a weak guy, he may hit a weak guy across the room. But you shouldn't hit another strong guy across a room. It doesn't make any sense. Um, So I agree with what you're saying. If two people are fighting, they shouldn't necessarily just fuck up everything, as long as they're just hitting each other normally. But there, you still have to think about like the impact of your punches. If you're punching super fast, you can cause sonic booms, and it can like destroy stuff in the environment. I just feel like extra stuff like that, just the force of your punches, the other person may be able to take it, but the impact wave could like destroy buildings and shit like that, because the rest of the planet is normal. The planet isn't made to like sustain superpowers, excuse me, and not get fucked up. Also, if you haven't already, don't forget to smash that like button. So let's see. John Mason said, if you get what I'm saying. Then JV Doan said, the Earth would be destroyed, though. A street fight would destroy cities. Agreed. Like I was saying, like the environmental damage caused by a fight, even if the two people shouldn't be getting knocked around, things in the environment would be getting knocked around. And then John Mason said, now, as you were saying, the others with more powers are just like before. Yeah, they still have like a distinct advantage over everyone else. Also, thank you for hitting the like button. I appreciate it. And then Kel said, okay, but what if we all get some Basara earrings? And he said, JK, lol. And then John Mason said, everyone else is normal. He said, okay, right, but our bodies, and of course, I think will adapt to it. Like Krypton, they're all like Superman, right? So the thing about Krypton is that the planet Krypton has a red sun, and red sun radiation for Superman makes him like a normal person. Only when a Kryptonian is under a yellow sun do they gain Superman powers. Under a blue sun, Kryptonians gain enhanced powers, so all their powers are better, and they gain an additional ability called Superman Vision, which is stupid. Superman Vision, if you shoot Superman Vision at anyone who doesn't already have Superman powers, they gain Superman powers. But because their bodies aren't made to have Superman powers, it'll like kill them. So they gain Superman powers temporarily, and then once the powers wear off, their body can't adjust and they like die. So Superman Vision actually could be used to temporarily increase the power of a villain, knowing that once those powers run out, that villain is just kaput. The villain just like eats shit and dies. But yeah, Kryptonians on Krypton don't have to worry about like destroying stuff with their strength because they're not super strong. They're like normal people. And then John Mason said, if they come to Earth, Earth will most likely adapt. You think the planet itself would adapt to just people having superpowers? Like, what about people having superpowers makes the planet stronger? You know what I mean? Then Kel said, if everyone is Superman level, then I think 7 trillion Superman, women, hashtag girl power, can destroy a big mean dollar store Cthulhu. Dollar store Cthulhu. What a what a shit on. I've never heard dollar store Cthulhu. Also, there are only a billion people on Earth. We don't have a trillion. But I know what you mean. There's still really, I mean, I guess size doesn't matter in this case. Even though the Earth is like marble size, it is still a bunch of Superman level beings. Because if Green Lantern was able to defeat the demon on his own, then I think 7 billion superpowered Earthlings could have tried to fight him. But I don't know. It seemed like he could psychically connect to the planet, and he could like talk to like even like bacteria on the planet, and all the bacteria were on his side. They were like, "We're fine with him being our god," which was weird because that implies that like bacteria have like a high enough level of sentience to be able to communicate like that. But imagine everyone on Earth has like Superman powers, but then the evil demon guy can control all the bacteria on the planet. Think about how much bacteria is inside your body. He could probably just kill everyone whenever he wanted to, if he could just talk to the bacteria. So it may be like not even really a choice for us to fight back. To which then I think Green Lantern should be the one to dick him and save the Earth, and then we take the star and we regrow us with the star, and then we can have our superpowers and not get eaten in 1,000 years. John Mason said Darkseid's beams are epic though, and then he said I forgot the name at the moment. They're his Omega beams are what Darkseid's beams are, and then he said no, I meant we. Sorry. Then he said lol, and he said actually. Then Dozer said depending on the Superman level we're talking about, I think the universe would be in danger of destruction. And I don't even know what that would mean. True, to have like 7 billion Superman level people. Keep in mind, the way that Superman powers work, is that you have to like charge it. So the more exposure to the sun you have, the more power you have. And if we go by DC 1 million rules, there aren't any caps. DC 1 million was a story they did where they looked at each superhero like a million years in the future to see, well, sorry, not a million years in the future. They looked at each superhero on the year 1 million. So it's like 1 million years on like the calendar, the same way that it's 2019 right now is year 1 million in the comic. And in it, Superman spends many, many years just chilling in the sun, and his powers evolve to such a high level that he's like essentially a god. So if we use Superman 1 billion, not 1 billion, Superman 1 million rules, then I would say that everyone on Earth is relatively weak at the moment compared to Superman because it would be like fresh exposure to the star. They probably haven't been under the star for like even like more than a couple hours. So they all would be really powerful, but they're not all Superman equivalent. They could get there with time, but they're not there yet. And then John Mason said some bacteria are sentient. Sentient? What do you mean? Also, Dozer said, also, I don't know what the main convo is. I'm sorry, Dozer, I can fill you in. So, I read the Green Lantern issue number 3. There's a "the" in the title. It's called the Green Lantern. I think it's a stupid title, but in it, there's this demonic alien who has shrunk. Oh, sorry. He's bought the Earth in an auction. There were a group of supervillains who were buying the planet. So he buys the Earth, and the Earth is like shrunken down. And he puts it in this fake solar system where there's a sun that gives everyone on Earth superpowers. Green Lantern was off planet at the time. So Green Lantern isn't shrunk and he's not on Earth. And he's trying to save the Earth from this demon. The demon is planning to eat the Earth in 1,000 years. And he's not a demon, he's an alien, but he looks like a demon. He plans to eat the Earth in 1,000 years. He just needs the humans to kind of like ripen up. It's like some shit like that. The Earth is going to develop over those 1,000 years and get to the point where he can eat the planet. And everyone on Earth knows this because Green Lantern tells them. He's like, the alien is willing to let you guys go to like not eat the Earth if you guys agree that you don't want him to be your god. But everyone on Earth says, no, we want him to be our god. We all have superpowers now, and we don't care what happens in 1,000 years. We'd rather all have superpowers. And then, like, our great, great, great grandchildren or whatever, they'll die, but we all get to live better lives for that 1,000 year period before, we kick the bucket and the alien eats us. And the current debate that we're having in the live chat is, was Earth right? Like, should Earth have said, yeah, this is a good idea, like they did in the comic, and just say, we're willing to die in 1,000 years for everyone to have superpowers? Or was Hal Jordan right? Because Hal Jordan Green Lantern goes, there's no reason for us to do that and to like all die. Hal Jordan says, I'm gonna like save the Earth. He puts the whole Earth under arrest. Is stupid. He projects like police caution tape around the planet, and then he goes, "All you guys, you're not in your right minds. Something's wrong. I'm gonna like, you're all under arrest. I'm gonna stop this alien. I'm gonna save the planet." And then that one guy, Kells, said, what if we make a machine that produces UV rays so we can get the military to godly levels? Um, I do have to agree with Kells. As soon as we learn that there's a star that exists that can give all the humans on Earth powers, it would be as simple as figuring out a way to simulate that star using our own technology, and then we could selectively give people powers, or we could make like artificial satellites to like give the Earth powers. You know what I mean? Um, so we could have opted out after like collecting data and figuring out like ways to simulate it ourselves. Like that could have been a thing. And then Dozer says selfish for no reason. He said there would be a huge disagreement from Earth. I highly doubt that everyone would just agree to be eaten in 1,000 years. I agree. I was saying that like there should be like a resistance and no one would feel like they couldn't argue because everyone has Superman powers. Even if you were a little kid and you were like, as a little kid, I don't agree with it, you would still be like a Superman level little kid. That being said, I think that like a grown man could probably like punch the fuck out of you, and even if you're a little kid with Superman powers, you're still weaker than like a grown man with Superman powers. But I think if you were in your prime, like if you were like a teenager, like you were like 18 or something, and you had Superman powers, or maybe like 23, and there was like an older guy who was like trying to get onto you, you could probably dick him. They've argued that Supergirl is better than Superman. Sometimes they say it's specifically because she absorbed more solar radiation on her way to Earth, so she's been charging closer to the sun. Like the rocket like orbited like around the sun like a few times on its way to Earth, so she's like supercharged. And then the other argument is that she's in her physical prime, where Superman's kind of past his prime. So I think people who are just in their prime on Earth will just be stronger than other people. But I agree. I think people would disagree, and I don't think everyone would come to the consensus that we should just accept this alien as our god and that we should just all get eaten in 1,000 years. Because I mean, would you just not have kids? Would you like refuse to have kids because you're like, what's the point of future generations? Because we're all gonna die in 1,000 years. You're just essentially giving birth to someone who you know, like your children's children are just gonna die. Like what's the point? And then John Mason said, well, I mean, humans always say, world's gonna end 2012, and some legitimately like believe in like apocalypse stuff. He said, also, we've always thought about the rapture and all that. So John Mason's saying that like a lot of people are fine with like apocalypse kind of stuff. Um, the only real explanation I could see to actually wanting to die in like 1,000 years would be to say at least we know how we go out. We don't have to worry about any other problems other than problems we cause for ourselves. We all get superpowers, and as far as anyone's concerned, we're all gonna like die in 1,000 years anyways. But that's still just selfish and short sighted, and it doesn't take advantage of like the worldview. It doesn't pay attention to like how are future generations gonna have to deal with this? What about like animals and stuff that like can't consent? Also, animals would have superpowers, and we get fucked. There's no way that I think humans would be the dominant species with animals having superpowers. I think we would die. Um, then John Mason said, and by the way, Nick, to be honest, we're all gonna die anyways. I mean, you're not wrong that we all are gonna die regardless. But that still doesn't mean that you essentially damn future generations to die just for no reason. And John Mason's like, And then Kel said, well, we've all added this from like maybe half an hour, so it's most likely we try to find a loophole, like a way to like get around it. Oh, I see what you mean. So they had barely been like super powered for like an extended period of time. At most an hour, they had like had abilities. So I mean, if they've only had powers for 2 hours, maybe for those 2 hours, people could have a consensus like really early on. They could be like, yeah, yeah, I think we're good. But they could probably also be secretly like, but we're gonna fuck them up though. We're gonna tell them that we're all good, but we're eventually gonna all use our powers and like take them down. John Mason said if they really cared, they wouldn't have messed up the world right now. He said, I mean, that's pretty much what they're doing now, messing up the future generations. Well, there's a difference between indirectly messing up future generations. Like you can create pollution, right? And know that the pollution that you're creating is going to have a negative impact on the environment. But the level of that impact, like knowing ahead of time how it'll affect people 1,000 years in the future, is something that you can easily write out. You can easily like just not think about. But if you had to make the choice, someone's essentially asking you, would you choose superpowers if it meant that like everyone dies in 1,000 years? Or would you choose to not have superpowers, but there's a possibility that you guys could live longer than 1,000 years from now? It's just really selfish to pick the superpowers option. It just doesn't make sense, even from an evolutionary standpoint, to do that. That one guy, Kel, said, if all organisms got superpowers, then water bells, not water bells, water bears will high key destroy us. Like microscopic water bears. Water bears are able to survive in a lot of like crazy environments, and they're really small, and they're not really a threat to us because they're like so small. But I see what you mean. If a water bear like had superpowers, so it could survive in a whole bunch of different environments, but it was really tiny, it could probably like try and cause havoc. I feel like scale affects it though. Do you think a water bear would be intelligent enough to like care, to like actually move out of his environment? Could a water bear even survive moving out of its microscopic environment to like fuck with things? I guess it's not growing. It would just still be small, but it would be small with powers. Imagine a cockroach is in your house and it has laser vision. I feel like that would be dangerous as fuck. You like turn on the lights in your kitchen and the cockroach freaks out and just goes like bzz, 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 bzz. It's just like shooting lasers everywhere. It's like flying around and shit, but it's not flying with wings. It's flying because it has like super speed flight. But you have superpowers, so you're like dodging the laser blast and shit. And you're like, even though it's a cockroach, if any of those laser blasts hit me, like I could potentially get like fatally wounded. And like, just I feel like a lot of stuff would be difficult. Think about like hunting. You know how people like go out and they like try and like hunt like big game, like they hunt like deer. Some people like try and hunt bears and shit, but the bear has superpowers. That would suck. You couldn't even use a gun. I just thought about that. Unless you had like special like earth kryptonite bullets or some shit, like an equivalent thing, the bear would have like, oh gosh, you couldn't just step on a cockroach either because it would be like a super cockroach. Could you? I mean, you can. Kryptonians can kill each other through like brute force fighting. So never mind. You could probably kill a cockroach, even if it did have superpowers. But you couldn't shoot it. You couldn't use guns. So stepping on a roach would work, but I don't know. It wouldn't be the same. John Mason said lol. Then Kel said the reason humans suck is because you know how you didn't get all the toys you wanted when you were a kid because of your parents? You're superior. As a race, humans have no superior on Earth. And then John Mason said, you're right, Kels. So the issue, you feel like the issue is that people don't have some like higher thing to like set us straight. So we just like make bad decisions. Do you think some people would choose to die in 1,000 years not because they want to die in 1,000 years and not even because they want superpowers, but because of that reason? Like, do you think they would choose it because they're like, we want some kind of supervision to just know that something's out there and something's watching over us to in order to like be like a check to like the human race? Because I could see that. Some people arguing that, like, forget the powers and forget the 1,000 year death sentence. I just want humans to not, like, to be actually, like, checkable for their actions. And then John Mason said, we'll have to use red sun bug spray. Oh my gosh. It's bug spray that just makes it into a normal bug. But that would work on literally any animal. If you sprayed that on a person, that person would be like, ah, fuck. I'm losing my powers. I guess for humans, it wouldn't be red sun, it would be yellow sun. Because we know what makes us normal. Because whatever makes you normal is the sun color that you're born under. I also don't know what color sun they had, but now I'm curious. Because that implies that in the DC universe, there is some form of star where we get powers, but we just don't know what that star is. We also know in the DC universe that platinum kryptonite is a thing. It can be found in the Phantom Zone, and if you touch it once, you get Superman powers for life. Superman actually has a piece of platinum kryptonite. Did I say Superman? Batman has a piece of platinum kryptonite, but he's never used it, supposedly. That was revealed in a Batman comic. I did a whole video on that where I was pissed because I thought Batman was going to use it. But there are now at least two different ways to get Superman powers in the DC universe. You get under whatever color sun the Earth was under in Green Lantern number three, sorry, the Green Lantern number three, or you touch platinum kryptonite. But that would work for any human for the sun thing, or any earthling for the sun thing. And then it would work for anyone for the platinum kryptonite thing. Also, if you haven't smashed that like button, feel free to do so. I appreciate it. And then Kel said, so we try to advance further and further at risk to everything around us. Um, I mean, that is like a big issue. That's just an issue in general. Kel said, but in this situation, because we have a confirmed superior that is significantly more powerful than us, then we'd probably kill to gain back our power, in a sense, and work together to do so. So, do you think the planet would be united under the common goal of trying to once again become the superior species? And we would, like, try and kill the alien threat before the 1,000 years hit. Because I could see that. I could see us trying to do that. Um, I still think it's interesting because Grant Morrison, the guy who wrote it, specifically leaves out the Justice League. So it really does make it feel like it's our choice. Like the people of Earth are making that choice rather than the Justice League putting any input in. And then Green Lantern says, fuck that choice and just makes a choice for us, which is interesting. And then John Mason said, there's a good chance of that. Um, I wonder if DC's gonna fall down a rabbit hole of just finding ways to get Superman powers. A matter of fact, there are three ways to get Superman powers that I know of. Because there's Platinum Kryptonite that gives you Superman powers for the rest of your life, Superman Vision that gives you Superman powers temporarily, and then there's this weird colored star that gives you Superman powers as long as you have radiation from that star inside of you. But the longer you're away from that star, and the longer you're exposed to like yellow sun radiation, you lose those powers. So that's at least three ways to get Superman powers. I know the old Superman car, which is not a thing anymore. Superman had a vehicle that had all of Superman's powers. So if you were to drive that car, you would have Superman powers, but only while you were in the car. So what's that, like four ways? But the car, you're not going to get to the car because that's not a thing anymore in continuity. Platinum Kryptonite, you're only going to get if you're like in the Phantom Zone or you take it away from Batman, and Batman's not going to let you have it, at least not without a fight. Superman Vision, you're not going to get unless you can get a Kryptonian under a blue sun, and then you can get that Kryptonian to shoot you with the vision. But then once it wears off, you probably die. Um, so Platinum Kryptonite's the best bet, even though Batman has the only piece that's not in the Phantom Zone that we know of. Because at least once you touch it, you just have those powers forever. Superman Vision has a hard drawback because you die, and that star sucks if you get separated from your planet. And then John Mason said, remember when Batman wore the Green Lantern ring? So there's a whole graphic novel about Batman getting the Green Lantern ring. That's like an Elseworld story. Then you have Dark Knight's Metal, which is like the evil Batman story where he gets the Green Lantern ring. Batman in continuity has worn a Yellow Lantern ring before. Batman was a White Lantern during Brightest Day, and I think he might have also been a Yellow Lantern during Blackest Night and everything. Then Dozer said, dang it, Nick. Oh, what's wrong, Dozer? Is everything alright? Am I going on too much of a tirade? Also, are you excited for your birthday, Dozer? Are you hype? Are you hype? There are too many friggin' ways to get Superman powers. I'm trying to think of another one that I can like think of off the top of my head. He said you skipped my comment like four times. Skipped your comment? Let me scroll up. The last comment by you was, there would be a huge disagreement from Earth. I highly doubt everyone would just agree to be eaten in like 1,000 years. That was at 1:41 a.m. Then it's John Mason, John Mason, John Mason, John Mason, John Mason, John Mason, Kells, John Mason, John Mason, John Mason, Kells, John Mason, Kells, John Mason, John Mason, John Mason, Kells, Kells, John Mason, John Mason, John Mason, and then it says, "Damn it, Nick, you skipped my comment like four times. Like what the fuck? What did I miss? I don't see the one that I missed. Sometimes YouTube doesn't let you post stuff. I've had that happen before, where someone say, "When you see my comment," and then it like doesn't come up. And then John Mason said, "Lol, Nick made a rap with just John Mason," and then you said, "Ha ha ha." John Mason just says the most things in the chat, so a lot of it just ended up being him. But I just went through to like make sure that I didn't miss anything, and I'm pretty sure the last comment that you said that appeared in the live chat at least was there would be a huge disagreement from Earth. But feel free to repost it and then check after you post it if it's like actually in the live chat or not. Because I've had people type stuff before and then go, why didn't it show up? And it's because YouTube like filters certain things. So it depends on what you say. Though I've also seen people say really crazy stuff, so I don't know how the filter works. Dozer said, why didn't Green Lantern just beat up the alien in that story? Because I guess Green Lantern was like, there's an easier way to get around it. Like, he's like, if I can just have everyone say, like, we don't want to be here, then he doesn't even have to beat up the alien. He can just, like, take the Earth. Because in the end, the real person who was wrong is the person who sold the earth, not necessarily like the person who bought the earth. It's wrong that he bought the earth to eat it. But for him, he was like going to the grocery store to get like a tomato, and it happens to be like an entire civilization that he wants to ripen over the course of 1,000 years. Where the auctioneer, he didn't care what happened to the earth. He didn't care if you ate it. He didn't care if you tortured people. The auctioneer even said like, "Feel free to do whatever you want." And he was like, "They can be your slaves. They'll worship you as a god. You can do all kinds of stuff." Let's see. John Mason said, "Nick, if your best friend died and you could make a deal to save them by killing a person every day, would you?" So I would say no. I would not. While I care deeply for my best friend, of course, they're my best friend. Um, I still couldn't see myself taking another person's life every day to bring back my friend. You know what I mean? If you asked me if my best friend died, would I kill my worst enemy to bring back my best friend? I would say no, but I feel like I'd be really on the fence about it because I feel like that'd be equal exchange. It's like, would you kill someone who you like hated as much as you loved your friend who died? I feel like that would be really tough. I think I would still say no, but I think I would like be really hard pressed on it because I'd be like, man, that sounds fair. That sounds really fair. Um, but I still don't think I could do it. I still don't think I'd want to ever kill anyone. You know what I mean? Just in general. Um, and then let me scroll up. Kel said this situation will definitely be a problem with religious communities. Grant Morrison, I think, did write this story to make it like a really controversial thing. He loves telling stories about gods and stuff like that. He's really good at it. He's one of my favorite comic book authors. I think the story that's going to be really bad with religious communities is Second Coming. I was telling John Mason about it. It's a DC comic that's coming out soon by Vertigo, where essentially God is sending Jesus back to Earth so that he can learn how to be a better Messiah from a superhero. It's in an alternate universe where like Superman and Batman don't exist, but there's a knockoff Superman who's called like Sunman or some shit like that, and Christian blogs and news have been like blowing it up. Like this is super blasphemous. This is crazy. Comic book news and nerd news has been talking about it. It's called Second Coming. If you guys haven't checked that out, it's not out yet, but I'm gonna read it. I think it's gonna be stupid, and I think it's gonna be funny. But it definitely seems like it's offending a lot of people. That's the story to look out for offending religious people. That's gonna offend a shit. It already is offending tons of people. Dozer said, "Well, it's still bad when you go to the store to eat a civilization of people." Dozer said, "Equally as bad as the seller." He said, "The auctioneer is just as bad as the slave owner. The slave auctioneer is just as bad as the slave owner." For this situation, I would disagree, only because the auctioneer really doesn't care, like, at all. And I think the alien does this as like a part of his race. I think Green Lantern even says that. Like the way that race of aliens survives is that they eat planets. So if you're like a race of alien where like what you do to survive is to eat planets regularly, then yeah, you know, it's more normal for that. Now, the auctioneer comes from a planet where you can sell anything, right? But at least with the guy who eats planets, he asked the planet for consent, though. He asked the planet, like, hey, is it okay if I eat you? And if most of the aliens on the planet say yes, then he eats the planet. Like, he wasn't going to eat the planet if the people of Earth were like, no. But the auctioneer didn't get consent from Earth to sell them, he just sold them. Where the demon alien is like, I need Earth's consent to eat them. I'm not just going to eat them if I don't get their permission. It's kind of like if you had a slave auctioneer and a slave buyer, and the slave buyer, after he bought the slave, was like, are you okay with being a slave? And if the slave said no, he would just let them go free. Where the slave auctioneer took the slave against their will and sold them to whoever without caring what happened. You know what I mean? And then Dozer said the alien didn't get consent to buy the earth. That's true, but at least after he bought it, he was willing to let it go if they didn't want him. you know? And by buying it, he keeps it from falling in the hands of someone who wouldn't have asked those questions. Also, I need to scroll through the comments real quick. I'm missing like hella post. John Mason said, "Ooh, I scrolled down too far." John Mason said, "But what if you were the cause of the deal indirectly? Oh, the cause of the death indirectly, like of my best friend? Would I still kill someone every day to save them out of guilt? No, I wouldn't. I would still feel guilty that my friend died, but that doesn't mean that more people have to die to bring my friend back." And then John Mason said, "No offense to Christians," he said, "but I mean, wouldn't God be happy that he's getting attention?" And then he said, "And I still believe that humans to those higher beings are like animals. Are like animals to humans." You're making an analogy. So you say gods are to humans as animals are to humans? No, no, no. That would be the wrong analogy. I said it in the wrong order. Humans are to gods as animals are to humans. That would be the argument that you're making. And then John Mason said, "I won't back down on that." He was like, "That's his belief." That's understandable. I do think that if they're like a supremely powerful being doesn't necessarily have to empathize with you. You know, if you have the power over everything, you could choose to be nice, but you wouldn't have to be nice. So I don't say it's necessarily the case that like a powerful god has to be like, oh, they're just like animals, like I don't care about them. But they definitely could because there's nothing that holds them to say that they have to be good. Um, and then Dozer said, then the race of alien is bad. Just like the whole race of alien is shitty. He said, it can be normal to be bad, but you're still bad. I agree with that statement, Dozer. I still think the consent part gives him a little bit of leeway. I think it makes him a lot better. Because at least he doesn't just straight up eat Earth. He goes, if the Earth doesn't want me to eat him, then I won't eat him. And then Kells said, "For me, it depends if my friend died permanently or not. If my best friend died from natural causes, then I let them die. But if they died like right here, right now, I'd probably kill my enemy." So you went for the enemy one. The enemy one I think is more interesting because it's like equal returns. I think it's just not worth the cost of killing someone every day to bring your best friend back to life. That doesn't make sense. It's not like a balanced consequence with a balanced benefit. I feel like once they're balanced, it's a stronger would you rather because it's a legitimate thing. Because when you want your worst enemy to be dead and when you want your best friend to be alive, so it's harder because now it's entirely morals to be what's laid out because the benefit and the cost are like the same. The only way that it would be even better is if you got like two friends for the price of one enemy or something like that. Then John Mason said, "Dozer, so if you eat meat, aren't you just as bad as the people that kill the animals?" And then he said, "Do animals give consent?" Then Kells said, "Even still, it's only like 51% kill and 49% not kill for me." Wow. So you're pretty sure that you would kill your worst enemy. Then Dozer said, "Sure, I could accept that it's bad to kill animals and eat them, but I'm unable to care and I don't feel bad about it." He says, "So it's fine no matter what, whether it's bad or good." I mean, couldn't you argue the same about the alien dude? Except the alien's even nicer because he has to ensure that the planet's okay with it. Uh, you know, if we had a way to straight up like talk to food and it understand us like before we ate it, and I mean like before we killed it, of course, uh, and ask it if it was okay with us killing and eating it, would you be like as okay with doing what you do? Not saying that I would change my behavior currently when we can't do that, but I think if we ever got to the point where like you could talk to a cow and be like, "Yo, can I kill and eat you?" and the cow could say no, I do feel like that would change a lot of people's like thoughts on it. We just probably wouldn't do it. And then John Mason said, "Oh, cool, Kels." Then Kels said, "Sorry, I meant prematurely, not permanently." And then John Mason said, "Lol." And he said, "That's the same as the alien." And then Dozer said, "I'm referring to it being fine no matter what to me." He said, "I personally think the alien is bad, is what I'm saying." Oh, I see. So Dozer's saying that the alien may think it's good for himself. You know, he was probably raised in a community of aliens where that's just the common thing. Everybody did it. It's just how you live. It's just what you do. But he's like, that doesn't make it morally right to everyone. And he's saying you can do morally wrong things and that just be what you do and what you're okay with. But just because you're okay with it doesn't mean everybody should be okay with it. I agree with that fundamentally. Like, that just makes sense. That's my argument against the auction holder. Because, but I feel like the alien dude's just better than the auction holder. I keep making that argument. Because the auction holder doesn't care about consent. He'll sell anything regardless of like whether or not what he sells consents to it. Where the alien dude, I think the alien guy's still wrong. Like, they're both wrong. The auctioneer is wrong, and the alien dude is wrong. But I think the alien guy is more in a gray area because at least if the planet doesn't want to be eaten, he won't eat it. So I think it's. I'm not arguing that the alien guy's good, but I'm arguing that the alien guy isn't as bad as the auctioneer, if that makes sense. And then John Mason said, "Oh, yeah." So I vibe with that. Like, I would agree with that. Um, I just think the auctioneer personally is worse. Now, does that mean the alien is good for buying? I think the alien actually does a good service by buying. I think buying is also good. Because as soon as you buy it, at least you ensure that the other people trying to buy it aren't going to like do bad things with it against like its will. It's almost like it's not almost, he did save the earth. The other people trying to buy it were like all like supervillains. And they would have like totally just fucked the planet. Let's see. And Kel said, in my opinion, being vegetarian is more morally right than to be a meat eater because I've grown up liked eating meat, and everyone around me eating meat, and I still eat meat. Interesting. It's because I thought Kel's argument was going to transition into him saying that he was vegetarian, but he's like, no. He thinks being vegetarian is morally right, even though he doesn't do it. So he's talking about what Dozer's talking about, where you can be okay with doing something that you don't think is like the most morally right thing you can do, and that can be like okay for you, even if it can be seen as being not the best moral option. It's still not like so bad that it matters to where like other people get onto you. Um, and that's what the auctioneer situation ended up being, where if the auctioneer was talking to a member of his own species, they would see no problem with him selling the earth. They're like, we sell everything. Everything has value that you can sell in the market. Um, but where Green Lantern is like, no, that's not okay. But galactic law says that there's nothing Green Lantern can do about that guy auctioning the earth because he's just doing his custom. And you're not allowed to fight against another alien's custom just because it's not the same as yours. They have to break an actual galactic law. But I'm confused how selling another person's planet isn't breaking a law. Like, how is that not breaking some kind of galactic law? And then Kel said on the buyer versus seller thing, in this case, the seller is in the most wrong. I would also have to say that I feel like the seller is in the most wrong. Then John Mason said, well, I'm writing a book where these alien chicken like creatures took over the earth and treated humans like they treat animals. And he said, so I guess you see where I stand on the topic. I understand. That sounds familiar. Is that. Isn't Animal Farm like that? Isn't that the whole point of Animal Farm? Yeah, it's an allegorical novella by George Orwell. I'm pretty sure Animal Farm is that plot. Let's see. Animal Farm is a satire on Stalin. Da-na-na-na-na. Plot summary. No, I don't want a full plot summary. I want something normal. Um, the end of the story involves the animals becoming more like humans at the end after they've taken over, and then they realize they're no better than the humans at the end of the story. It's like a weird switcheroo because it's from the perspective of the animals in Animal Farm. I'm pretty sure, and they end up like taking over, but in the end they realize they've become the thing that they were like trying to overrule, which is similar to just how revolutions end up being. That's why they're called revolutions. You find yourself in the position of which you fought against in the end. Um, and then John Mason said, and I feel about law, Nick. He said, no, Animal Farm isn't like that, really. He said it's just about how animals are treated, but from their point of view. Does Animal Farm really not have them take over and become like more like people? I thought that's how it ended. The pigs start to resemble humans as they walk upright. Yeah, let's see. Years pass, the windmill is rebuilt, and another windmill is constructed, which makes the farm a good amount of income. However, the ideals which Snowball discussed, including stalls with electric lighting, heating, and running water, are forgotten, with Napoleon advocating that the happiest animals live simple lives. In addition, Boxer, it kind of gets away from it, but I'm pretty sure that animals take over the farm, right? And they just start being like people. I could have sworn that's what happens. Um, and then Kel said, because at least the demon alien thing is giving the humans the option not to die. And that's better than the seller who gave no option. I agree with that. Also, if you haven't already, feel free to smash that like button. Truly appreciate it. So is Animal Farm not that? Do they not like? Yeah, it's like the animals start to learn how to read and write and shit, and the animals revolt and they like make all the humans run off of the farm and they take over the farm. So it's like the animals take. Oh, I guess the issue is the animals don't start treating people like animals. Instead, they just take over the farm and they just have it. So I guess that's the thing. Yeah, because they don't start putting the people in the farm. Okay, John Mason, you're right. It doesn't count because they don't immediately then swap it up on them. So that's fair. Your story has the swap up. They don't just like take, the world back, but they're like going to essentially enslave people. And then John Mason said, my only argument to that, Kells, is the same as before. You're asking too much of the alien and the auctioneer. You see, humans are puny to them. He's like, there's no reason to ask the alien and the auctioneer to do those things. He says there is no good or wrong to them. It's just food. Um, well, I think that's part of what makes the alien guy stand out so much is the fact that even though you think he'd be like it's just food, he's like it's not food if they don't consent. Where the auctioneer is like they are a market good regardless of if they consent. And then John Mason's like, but the alien is like a vegetarian. He feels bad for eating humans. I don't think he's a vegetarian. Like, if we could talk to cows and cows could agree to whether or not we could like eat them. If a cow didn't agree, I think it would be bad to try and like eat the cow without its assent. I mean not assent, without its consent. But if the cow did consent to being eaten, I'd be like, yo, I fucking love burgers. Like, like if the cow wanted me to eat it, I would just eat the cow. So that's fair. And he gives them like time to like live. It's not like he's gonna eat them immediately. He gives them like 1,000 years. I don't think I'd give a cow 1,000 years. But if you were like, cow, you know, you'll chill, you'll live on this farm, we'll take care of you, and then, after we're done taking care of you and get nice and fat, I'm about to fucking Hansel and Gretel that ass, put you in the oven, put you on the grill, get some fucking double decker burgers up in this bitch. Like if the cow was like, sure, that sounds good. That's like, I know how I die. That's also another thing. A lot of people are probably like scared of death. Well, none of those people would live long enough to experience the 1,000 years, but to like know how the world ends and to feel confident that like the world will at least last 1,000 years, because the alien wouldn't let the world not last 1,000 years because he wants to eat it. So as long as you knew that there was some higher power watching over you and like preserving the earth and making sure that everyone was safe until finally the 1,000 years hits and he nom noms, um, it's almost like knowing that you have like a savior, someone who's gonna keep the world safe because otherwise it'll ruin his meal. He has like a selfish reason to defend them, and to be honest, that selfish reason makes him an even better defender. Because Superman could always just fuck off if he wanted to. He's doing it because it's the right thing to do. But if you have someone who has like selfish reasons to protect you, then it's more likely that they'll consistently do that. They'll make sure to protect you so that they don't fuck you over, because it fucks them over. It's like a mutual, it's like almost like a symbiotic relationship, but not really, because that alien's gonna fuck you eventually. But you know it, and you've consented to it. It's a consensual fucking. Um, and then that one guy, Kel, said, I don't think the alien feels bad. He's just nice. I feel like he'd feel bad if he was to eat them and they didn't consent. He gives off that vibe to where if they didn't want him to eat them, then he wouldn't want to do it. Um, so I think he would feel bad if he did do it without consent. And then John Mason said, now that I think about it. And then Kel said, I'm not scared of death because I can't do anything about it. He's like, well, that's interesting. Okay, Kels. Um, if you could get a clone of yourself with all of your memories after you died, what would be your opinion on death? Like, how would you feel about it? Because I think that would be interesting. When you mentioned the not scared of death thing, that made me think about that. Because we can already clone mice and we can already zap experiences into mice brains, but we can't do that for people. But just think about what we'd be able to do so many years from now. There are plenty of things that we couldn't do with people before that we could do with mice, that after a lot of testing in the lab, we can now do with people. So, since we can already clone mice and we can already give mice memories, even memories from other mice, by just like recreating them, what are your thoughts on that? Uh, would you be scared of death if that was like a money based thing? Like anyone could get a clone of themselves with all their memories after they died, but you had to save up enough money to do it. And if you didn't have that money saved when you died, you wouldn't come back as a clone. Would you be scared of death then, knowing that you have the option to kind of live on through like your clone body with all your old memories? Would you be scared of the idea of not being able to continue living because you didn't have enough money to do so? And then John Mason said, the alien is actually kind of tricking the humans, and he's not good. He knows the humans won't live 1,000 years. He said, shouldn't he ask the current humans of the time that he's going to eat the Earth? Hmm. I see what you mean, John Mason, because he's essentially saying that these humans who he's not going to eat are going to be the ones that give him consent to eat their children. So you're right, it isn't fair because the alien is essentially like, well, maybe they won't care. You know, they won't care that I'm gonna like eat their children, and then their children can't complain because their ancestors gave me permission to do it. You're right. If the alien really cared, he wouldn't ask them now. He would ask them later. So John Mason, that's just true. That's just true as fuck. He said, think about it. What if it actually happened, right? And this year, the 1,000 years were up, and he came to eat us now. Wouldn't you rather he spoke to us in person, the victims? So him asking was literally not necessary, because it doesn't really like make a difference. I don't know. Do you think the people of Earth would have raised their kids, like if you did have children, to be like, hey kids, one day the alien guy is just gonna eat you. That's just like a thing that'll happen, but you won't have to worry about it. And then the closer we get, it gets to like damage control. Soon we'll sacrifice ourselves to like our great God who's like protected the earth for all these years. He's blessed us with like these superpowers that he could take away at any time if he was to just take away the sun, which he can do. He was the one who gave us this mini sun in the first place. So it's like we're thankful for him, and he'll eat us. Because I feel like the people of Earth will be grateful. They'll be like, he's kept us safe. You know, he gave us these superpowers, which he didn't have to do. He could have given us a mini sun that was just like our normal sun, you know, and done that instead. I feel like we feel grateful that he like made us involved in the first place in any way, and I think that as a part of Earth tradition and eventually Earth religion, we would like give thanks to like this alien, and we would worship this alien, and when the time came, it would be like a religious sacrifice to the alien that it like saved the planet essentially. And then John Mason said, oh, I already read that. Kel said, if I had a clone, then I'd guess I'd tell him he isn't me, or leave me a message to someone that he is in me, because after I die, he'll change and grow while I stay stagnant and dead as fuck. That was oddly poetic. Because after I die, he'll change and grow while I stay stagnant and dead as fuck. That one guy kills. 2019. That's a solid quote. And John Mason said, lol. Well, the main point of that question was, would you fear death if you felt like you could kind of avoid it through the clone? Because even though the clone wouldn't be you, it would be like genetically identical to you, physically identical to you, and have like your memories. So it would be very, very similar. Of course, it wouldn't be you because it's a clone, but it having all of that in it, it would be like essentially being able to buy a save file. So I'm like, would you be afraid of death if you didn't have enough money to buy a save file, but it seemed like you were going to die? But while other people just do that, like other people have the money, and if they die, it doesn't have as much consequence. So they're not afraid of death because they're like, I just know my clone's gonna come back and they're gonna remember all my experiences and it'll be kind of the same, but not really. And then Kel said, in short, I think clones will become its own being as soon as the original is no longer there. I mean, clones, I think, are their own being the whole time. It's just the closest thing I know of to us, like, being able to live on in that way, would be to be able to zap our experiences into something else. And if that something else happened to be a genetically identical body to us, that would be interesting. Then John Mason said, Kels, imagine you show up and the clone slaps you and says to you, you're a clone of me. Would you believe it? No. Well, fuck. We all have the same memories. So I think one thing that makes this avoidable is one is if you only made the clones after the person died. And two, because cloning is like a long process, even if you had the clone made while you were alive, that clone still becomes a baby and then grows up as normal. So, I mean, if a little baby was like, yeah, you're a clone, I guess that it would probably have to be like toddler you. You'd be like, bitch, please. I also would be really confused about toddler me. Because if toddler me had all my memories, I'd be like, damn, how is it to be like a toddler again? Like, is that like acceptable? You know what like college is, and like all sorts of things that toddlers just shouldn't know. I think toddler me would become significantly better than me very quickly. Kel said, well, I'm not avoiding death in that case. It's kind of like asexual reproduction. Kind of like when Piccolo died in Dragon Ball and he made an egg to like live on, even though Piccolo DBZ and onward is different. And then John Mason said, right. Yeah, that is true. It is more like an asexual reproduction kind of thing. Except you just can't do it yourself. You gotta like pay for it. Also, this vlog has been like a solid hangout. Normally it's like I go over my day and then we'll like have like a few conversations, but this has just straight up become like a debate, and it's a comic book debate. That's what I'm talking about. This is the kind of stuff I enjoy. um, but I do feel the responsibility to go back over my day again and then to end the stream. Tangent actually has hired me to write a superhero story for him. I haven't started writing it yet, and I have 10 hours and 47 minutes to write it. Also, I need to exercise. Dozer, if you're still here, I haven't seen Dozer in a hot minute in the live chat. Um, do I need to wait to eat for the party? Because the party is at 5 p.m. So it'll be a hot minute before I eat if I wait until 5 p.m. to eat. I'm not sure if I can pull through. But if you're like, Jet, it's worth it. I got hella food. And you need to like wait and eat for the party, then I'll understand and I can like try and wait for that period. If not, I would probably exercise and eat like tonight. But it depends on what you want me to do for the party. And then John Mason said, lol, it's fun though. And then he said, oh, cool, no problem. And he said, Jet, maybe this once you can eat two small meals. John, what are you talking about? I only eat once a day. I only eat once. Oh, I did a O. Sorry. ONCE. I only eat once a day. I only eat once a day. I don't do this two small meals. What is this witchcraft? Kel said, if me and my clone were both present at the same time, and if you felt that I was a clone of him, then I guess I have a dope twin now. That's interesting. Um, I like the way that you said it. I feel like it's more of a problem than you're making it out to be. If the clone of you was like trying to like assert dominance, I just think it would be like a weird experience. And then John Mason said, "Nice way to out it, Kels." And then Kels said, "We should do discussions like this more often. Hopefully not this late though. Normally when it's like not a Thursday, the fan poll streams are gonna be an hour at most. So probably run from like midnight to 1 a.m. at the most. Because it's Friday now, I was like, I don't have class or anything. Like, I'm not going to get screwed over by doing it longer. But trust, the normal Nickabenson vlogs are normally going to be only an hour at most. Because I have to make sure that I get ready for bed and be ready for class the next day on most days. But Friday, Saturday, yeah, actually, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I'm willing to do the vlogs much longer and have longer discussions because of the fact that I have so much time. Because I don't have class on Mondays. So on like Thursday nights, I can do vlogs like this that are really long. Friday nights, I can do vlogs like this that are really long. Saturday and Sunday, same deal. But then Monday through Wednesday, there's no way I can do vlogs this long. I have to be well rested. And then John Mason said, "Well, yeah, no problem, no problem." But this was really fun, though. I agree. So, real quick, I'm going to go over everything that I did today. Kel said, if he's a clone of me, then he wouldn't want to become me because we both recognize that we're both different or both equal to each other. I see what you mean. So, I woke up this morning, I set up the fan poll, um, and then I can't remember if I read Young Justice #1 or not in the morning, or if I read it later in the day. I'm gonna say I read it later in the day. I got caught up on Hunter x Hunter, so I'm now caught up with Hunter x Hunter where it is on Adult Swim. So now I have to wait for more episodes to come out on Adult Swim, and then for those episodes to be put online so that I can watch them online. So I'm still stuck in the Chimera Ant arc until Adult Swim can catch up. So that's where I'm at in Hunter x Hunter. I played Dueling Book because that's what got voted for in the fan poll stream, and I played my Vintra Vizier deck, which is a custom card deck that I made. I didn't do very well. I can tell that I'm rusty at Yu-Gi-Oh, and I would make plays and then immediately say I shouldn't have done that, but I let it ride because that's how you learn and get better. And sometimes you can try and pull yourself out of situations. But I had a few close games where I think I could have won if I didn't misplay, but I misplayed pretty hard in a lot of games, and I just ended up losing. Let's see. But I had fun nonetheless. Like, I enjoyed my time playing Dueling Book. Then after that, I went to my first class for the day, and I got to meet up with an old friend, Matt Hawkins, from high school. He's a pretty cool dude. He used to do like rap stuff. He doesn't do as much rap stuff anymore because he's been busy with work and school, of course. But we both thought there was class, but in the syllabus there was no class, so we ended up leaving class early. I got back to the dorm, and I'm gonna say that's when I read Young Justice #1. Young Justice #1's making a lot of weird choices. I want more Teen Lantern, which is the new teenage Green Lantern who's hacked into like a Green Lantern ring and now is able to access Green Lantern based technology without necessarily having the willpower or being chosen by a ring. So they're just like a hacker of alien technology. I'd love a whole book just about her, but right now she feels like a side character. Impulse, who's like Flash's like great grandson or whatever from the future, he seems to be able to break the fourth wall, which I don't remember him being able to do before. But I'm interested in seeing where they're going with that. And they're bringing back Superboy, who was one of my favorite characters in New 52, which is the DC Comics continuity from 2011. The New 52 is still canon, by the way, but it seems like the Superboy that they brought back isn't the New 52 Superboy, it's the Superboy from the 90s, and I don't understand. I don't understand how that happened. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. But I read Young Justice #1. Then after I read Young Justice #1, I did a couple raps. I did one rap called Thumpin'. I did another rap called Meat Cake, and those are both on the channel if you like to check those out. They're both just raps I did for fun. I wrote Thumpin' while I was at the airport in DC, and I wrote Meat Cake before, but I finally had a chance to perform and record them today. I hope you guys like them. Then I went to my next class, which is a statistics class, but it focuses a lot on teaching you concepts and terms and everything like that. So then, with all those concepts and terms that they teach you, they like barely go over formulas. So, like I said, as a teacher who hasn't taught before, and it's like, here are all these concepts that you need to know and all these terms, and then they show you the formulas, and they're like, and also you need to know these, and then they skip past the formulas real quick, and it's like, what? Why don't we spend more time on the formulas since it's a math class? Why do we spend so much time on like concepts and terms? But the concepts and terms are like business terms. They don't feel like math terms. They're talking about like different types of like business strategy and stuff like that. And then you throw up all these formulas and you cut away. And I'm like, no, no, I need those formulas. What are you doing? So that's like really gross. Um, John Mason said just got a flashback of Legion of Superheroes, and he's like, "Wow." The Legion of Superheroes cartoon is available on the DC Universe subscription service, which I actually still have. I thought Dad was going to get rid of it, but he extended it, which means I'm going to be able to watch Young Justice Season 3. Hey, hey, hey. So let's see. Moving forward from that, I just feel weird about that statistics class because the teacher doesn't grade homework. It seems like he skipped over the formula part really fast, which I thought the formula part was like the most important part. He skipped over the formula part really fast. He doesn't grade homework, and I feel like I'm gonna not have a lot of exposure to like the formulas that I need because of how quickly he goes over. Because he doesn't really go over them. He didn't even read all the formulas. He read like two or three, but there were much more than like two or three formulas. He just like said, you got just read the slides later. But then he didn't have the slides online, so it was really weird. But I feel like I'm not gonna be prepared to actually be able to like do the class. So that's what I'm like afraid of. I feel like we're gonna get a test, and I'm not gonna be prepared for the test because I won't know what I did wrong on homework because he doesn't really grade the homework. So you just either pass or fail, depending on whether or not you actually did it and if you can read it. So I don't like that. That's really gross. And then I feel like I'm gonna take a test and just not know what I'm doing. So hopefully he changes up a little bit and adapts to the class, and hopefully we don't get cucked. I hope we don't get cucked. Also, he only lets you do one-sided formula sheets. What's up with that? I got a whole sheet of paper. Let me use both sides, please. John Mason said Lucky, talking about the DC Universe streaming service. It's pretty okay. I wish the movies were on it. I don't get why they don't have the newer movies. I want to be able to watch Suicide Squad on the DC Universe streaming service if I want to. It's a DC cinematic movie. Why can't I have it on my DC streaming service that has movies but just doesn't have the new ones? Um, so after that, I hung out with Matt. Me and Matt watched a few shows and we watched a little bit of YouTube together. But I have a habit of trying to take control of what me and Matt watch because me and Matt have different interests. And sometimes I feel bad because I don't want to like force Matt to watch stuff that he doesn't want to watch, but I also don't want to be forced into watching something that I don't want to watch. But I feel like I should be able to take turns a lot better than I do. But a lot of times we'll take turns for a little bit and then I'll take over and I'll just start picking stuff. So I need to treat Matt better. I do think that is a legitimate thing. Also, a lot of the time that I spent with Matt, I wasn't really able to hang out with him because me and Jared started hanging out while Matt was here. And we were talking about rap, and we like listened to a few rap songs together. He wants to work on a rap song. He's currently working on one with Aiden and another one of the producers, and I may or may not get involved in that project. We're currently talking about that now, so there might be a big collab rap coming soon. Who knows? Stay tuned for that. Matt had to dip. He was like, I'm getting tired, and we didn't really get a good chance to like hang out. And again, I'm sorry about that, Matt. And then Jared's like, I'm gonna hit the hay. So then Jared went to bed. Then I did this live stream. And then of course I read Green Lantern #3 during the break that we had in the statistics class. So that's when I had time to read that comic. Um, and I think I'm caught up. There were a few things that me and Matt watched that I talked about earlier in the stream, but that's not as important. So I think those are like the main things that I did today. Thank you all for tuning in, and I appreciate it. If you like this video, make sure to smash that like button, favorite, comment, subscribe, and ding ding ding, ring that notification bell to be notified whenever we do these live streams. There's your host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black, the one and only, logging out. Peace. John Mason said, "Oh yeah, how's Maddie feeling now?" So Maddie's feeling better. I'm glad that you asked. And then John Mason said, "Night, Nick. Maddie's feeling better. I have had a chance to talk to Madde and Danica today. I almost did a vlog without mentioning Madde or Danica the whole time, which is really interesting." And then John Mason said, "Happy birthday to your friend later again." Yeah, happy birthday to Dozer. So Madde. So Madde, she's feeling better. Um, she was kind of tired. I'm not sure if she was able to make it to her first class or not. But she still wants to move to Costa Rica for like a couple years. She's thinking maybe Costa Rica or maybe Russia. She's getting into Russian and she wants Russian to be the foreign language that she focuses on. Even though she has so much experience in Spanish, and I feel like she knows Spanish a lot better than she knows Russian. She feels like she wants it to be her choice what foreign language she learns. So she's trying to put her foot down and like learn Russian and make that her language of choice. So she either wants to move to Russia for a couple of years or move to Costa Rica for a couple of years. And she says she wants to get back to basics. And I've been talking to Madde about how I don't think moving to a foreign country is getting back to basics. And she's like, well, when I was in Costa Rica, I had a basic phone, and I rode the bus more, and I talked to people face to face more, stuff like that. She was like, it was like a more basic form of living. And I'm like, you can do that anywhere. Like you can choose to just own a basic phone. Like if you don't want a smartphone, you can just buy a non-smartphone and just use a normal phone if you want. If you want to talk to people face to face more, you can choose to talk to people online less and spend more time talking to people in person. If you want to ride the bus, we don't have the best bus system in the world, but for our university, we have a shuttle bus that'll like come through and it'll like take you to Walmart and stuff like that. Like if she wants to like run errands by riding the bus instead of like taking her car, she can do that. Like all those things are things that she can do whenever. So if she wants to like go back to basics, I don't feel like that's necessarily like needed. And then she talked about how it's really different in a foreign country though, because it's like test her like Spanish skills and she has to depend on her ability to speak Spanish to like survive. And I'm like, I get that. Like I understand that the reason why she wants to go to a foreign country is to like improve her foreign language speaking skills, but that's not going back to basics. That just sounds like harder life. It sounds like it's a lot harder to live. That's not a basic way to live. Also, make a wish. It's about to be 2 2 2 2 2 2. Hey, hope you made that wish. Uh, but anyways, I was saying that because it was 2 hours, 22 minutes, and 22 seconds. But going back to it, um, Maddie, I don't know. I don't understand what she means by get back to basics. I feel like she wants change, and I feel like change and back to basics are two really different things. They're like counterintuitive things. Um, because if someone told you they wanted to go back to basics and it required them to like move to another country, I'd be like, is that really your basics? Is that like you're back to square one is like somewhere else? Because I don't feel like that's necessarily true. Because back to square one and back to basics are really different. Back to basics would be you cut out any of like the unnecessary extra in your life that you don't necessarily want that you've self-imposed, and then you live your life the way you want to without doing all the extra stuff that you don't feel you need to do. Right now, my current opinion on like Maddie's situation, I think she does right now legitimately want to go and study abroad for 2 years and enjoy her life like in another country. But I feel like maybe she'll sing a different tune in a month. I don't know. But I do feel like Maddie transitions between liking things and not liking things. So I feel like this is her vision now. This is what she wants to do now. But I feel like a little bit later, she may not necessarily feel that way. And then with Danica, Danica had to watch the kids today. So Danica has a lot of siblings, and her siblings have a lot of kids, and she ends up watching her siblings' kids for free for like most of the time she's at home. So she doesn't get a lot of time to relax to herself. She has to like watch over the kids. So Danica, I think, had a little bit of time to relax. We talked about our favorite kind of weather. I really like slow rain. I like slow rain, a cool day, but not too cold where you're like frigid, and for it to be like dark, maybe like cloud cover. I feel like it's very cinematic. It feels like you're in a movie. And I don't mean like slow, heavy rain, like slow, light rain. I think it feels like you're in a movie. It has like a magical feel to it. Danica doesn't fuck with that at all. She's like 75 degrees, sunny, keep it bright. That warm summer weather, fam. And I understand. A lot of people don't like being cold. A lot of people don't like being wet. So I can see how she doesn't vibe with that weather. But me and Danica, I think, straight up talked about the weather. That was like the big Danica conversation. And we talked about what we were going to do today. Danica was like, "Oh, it sounds like you're going to have a fun day." I was like, "Yep, always do. Always trying to have the most fun that I can." I'm like, "I hope that you get some time to relax." She said that she only had like an hour before she had to watch the kids. And I was like, "Well, I hope that you like have a relaxing hour. Like you make the most out of it before like you have to watch the kids." And then John Mason said, "I hope she makes up her mind soon in regards to the Maddie situation." I mean, I don't know. The way that she does it, it's not too bad. And you may be like, "What? What does that mean?" Well, it seems like if Maddie continued this course for the rest of her life, where she decides that she really wants to do something and then later reneges and goes, "I don't want to do it," she never gets too invested in that one thing for it to be like she can't come back from it. As long as she can always return back to square one, like from where she started, then she can always just do it again and again. I feel like returning back to square one um, is something that's interesting because it's always whatever she wanted gets replaced. I don't think I've ever really known Maddie where she's really wanted something and then she decides that she didn't want it anymore, but didn't immediately replace it with something else that she wanted more than that. And it just varies. And sometimes she really wants something, and then the next moment she couldn't care less about it. She just like wants something else. But I feel like she could live her life that way and she'd be fine because of the fact that she never gets like too deep into it. But at the time, it seems like it's like the main thing, like the most important thing to her. And then John Mason said, "I love heavy rain and thunder." Mom really likes that to sleep to. Like when she's at home, she likes to go to sleep to like when there's like a big storm going on. John Mason said, "Oh, I see." And then he said Spanish to Russian. He said, "I see what you mean." Well, the Spanish one is actually pretty severe. She's I just said Spanish. She's finished most of her college education when it comes to Spanish. Like she's finished most of her Spanish classes. So to take on Russian is to like drastically extend her college. She'll have to be in college long enough to do all her extra non-foreign language courses and to complete all her Russian courses, which I think is insane. I would not want to do that. That's like if I was like I felt like cybersecurity wasn't my thing and then I suddenly took on like a computer science degree, which is just within like a whole different department and has whole and like entirely different classes. I still be doing like programming and working with computers and stuff like that, but it would be a totally different major. It would be a huge setback. Like I'm graduating this semester. If I was to make that choice, I would probably have to go to college not for a full 4 years, but maybe like for another year or two to get in all those computer science classes that I would have needed. And she's essentially making that kind of choice, taking on like multiple additional months of school in order to like try and take on another passion. But I feel like she should just graduate with the Spanish degree and then choose later on to come back and take on another language because it doesn't make sense. Because now what she's doing is she's doing Spanish and Russian at the same time because she's not even done with the Spanish. So I think it's just kind of ridiculous. I think she's doing too much. Then John Mason said, "Damn, that's kind of insane." It is like a big switch. Kel said, "I think she wants to live a simpler life in Russia because going somewhere else is kind of like exploring a whole new world." She said, "I kind of feel what she's going for, but it's hard to explain." I mean, I get that she has like wanderlust. I get the idea that she wants to
have a new experience. But I feel like what she really wants is to be like independent. She wants to, and I do think she wants to understand foreign languages on like a whole other level. But I feel like she doesn't need to understand them at the level that she's going for a career. It sounds like she just wants to do it. She's already studied in Costa Rica for a few months before, like where she lived in Costa Rica for a few months to study abroad and then came back. So she knows what it's like. She's like lived there and experienced the culture for like a small time frame, but she wants to live there for 2 years and get like fully immersed in it. But what she wants to do is be a translator for businesses. And I don't think you need to be fully immersed in their culture to like get to the level of being able to translate for a business. I don't feel like she needs that at all. If she was like going in for sociology and it's like she's focusing on like society, then I understand like full immersion entirely. Yeah, you want to get like a really solid idea of the culture so that you're able to like actually write about it and like do studies on the culture. Like if you're like an anthropologist or a sociologist. But to me, it doesn't make any sense if you just want to be a translator for you to have like a complete and total understanding of what it is to live in that country. That's just way too much. It just sounds like a lot of money to do something that you want to do, and that's fine. I want her to follow her dream. I want her to like be happy and do what she wants to do. If that's what makes her happy, then that's totally fine with me. But it just sounds like a lot of money, and it sounds like it's a lot harder for her to do something that she may want to do for a little bit, but she's just known to change. I just feel like she may do it for a few more months. She did like a few months before. She might do a few months again, and then be like, well, no, I just kind of want to go back. She'll want to go back to basics, and she'll like come back. I think is what'll happen. I just think it's weird. I don't know. I feel like she'll hopefully be all right, but it's just a lot. And then let me scroll up because I feel like I missed some messages. 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 And then John Mason said, "Oh, he said, hey, Kels, I didn't know you were still here." He said, "But she should take it one step at a time, in my opinion. Maybe finish Spanish. Sorry, finish Spanish first, then go do Russian if she still wants to." That's how I feel too. I feel like she should have finished Spanish and then went into Russian rather than trying to do it all at once. And then John Mason said, "You know what I mean?" Yeah, I entirely agree. And then Kells said, "I'm kind of like the therapist of my friend group, so I have to like dissect what people want to solve problems like this. But this is really hard to figure out." I mean, I do think it's hard to figure out. Maddie has like small everyday problems that I can help her out with, where it's like not hard to give her advice. Like if you oversleep and you might miss a class, but you have like a good reason, just tell your teacher. Easy, easy solution. You want to go to Costa Rica for 2 years and you want to like possibly live in Russia for 2 years and you haven't finished your Spanish degree and it's a lot more complicated. It very Yesterday at cookout, she was gonna try a new shake flavor, so she comes up with a new milkshake flavor. That's a very simple thing that has a small consequence of $3.26. It's something that I can easily talk Maddie through and try and help her out with. And then you'll have stuff like this, and it's like, well, this is just a huge problem. This will determine a large portion of your life, and I can't just say, you know, mint and banana sounds horrible. Like I can't just give like very simple advice to it. And then John Mason said, ah, ha ha. He says it is a bit difficult, lol. And he said basics for her is like the variable x for math teachers. It does vary. It does vary a lot. And then Kells said, it sounds like she wants to know the culture plus the language, and that's really hard when you're learning multiple languages and multiple cultures at once. And then John Mason said, you're right, Kells. And you are right. That is what she wants to do, and it is really hard. Um, and I wish her the best. It just seems kind of difficult and unnecessary. Um, I feel like what she should do as a career should be different if she wants to get the full culture meld. Like if you really want to get deep in the culture, right? Then make your career, like whatever your job is, have to directly relate to you getting deep in the culture so that you just get more value from it. Because I think if you get deeply engrossed in the culture, you're not just going to want to be a translator. You're going to want to do like a lot more than just translate. At least that's what I would hope, right? And then John Mason said, "Oh, maybe a plane hostess for like other countries." I feel like that pays a lot less than like the translator thing. Um, I think if she went for like a research position, like sociology or anthropology, she could like make that money, go for like a doctorate in it, and like studying like other cultures. That would be cool. But that also would be a shit ton of like more studying, and she'd have to have like more college. It just, it's so much. It's so much more. I feel like she should just go for the translator thing for now and then move forward. Um, it's just, it's a lot. It is a lot. Um, when it comes to relationship stuff, um, as long as Maddie's trying to live in a foreign country for 2 years, I just don't see it working. Because Maddie being in a foreign country, I'd be working for the government. I wouldn't be in a foreign country, I'd be here. And if I was to move to a foreign country, that'd be really weird because I would have spent time working for the government. I wouldn't move to Russia after doing cybersecurity in America. That sounds ridiculous. That sounds like a really weird thing to do. So I just wouldn't do that. Um, so I don't see me and Maddie working out. I think we're still married. We're waiting for like the letter in the mail that says like you're divorced, but we just haven't gotten it yet. Um, and I don't know. When it comes to like me and Danica, Danica's not trying to straight up like start dating after the divorce. Like she's not trying to be like boyfriend and girlfriend. We still want to like go on dates with each other and stuff like that. But we're not gonna like officially be boyfriend and girlfriend. We're just gonna keep doing it. Nani said it's a vlog. Then John Mason said lol, and then he said you broke up, and then John Mason said they had to, unfortunately, and then Nani said so you're not married no more. So I am still married right now until we get the letter in the mail that says we're divorced. We already like paid the divorce fees, and we're just kind of waiting for it to like process and like go through. They have a 30-day period where they say that for 30 days, um, if you guys decide that you don't want to be married, you can like take it back and then like undo the divorce. So once that period's over, we'll both receive something in the mail that says you're divorced now, and you guys can move on. But me and Maddie did for a period say that we are gonna like be engaged afterwards, like after the marriage thing, so that we would like still be together, we'd still be like dating. But then we realized that I'm probably gonna have to move due to work because I have to work for the government due to my scholarship, and I have two job offers, but neither of them are here. So it's just very likely that I'm not going to be in the area. And Maddie doesn't want to move somewhere else in the country. She wants to move to another country. She wants to live in like Russia for 2 years or like Costa Rica for 2 years. Um, but I want to like follow my dream and like work for the government. And also, if I don't, it's not a thing where I could just choose to not work for the government and just work locally or work in another country. I have to for my scholarship, or my scholarship becomes a loan. It's not like an easy choice for me to make. I would owe like a lot of money if I was to not work for the government. And plus, I want to serve my community. I want to help my country. You know what I mean? So no matter like how I feel for Maddie, that I just have obligations to my nation and to myself. You know what I mean? And Maddie is like, well, it's her dream to like go to like a foreign country and like live there for like so many years and get engrossed in the culture. But I'm not sure if it is her dream. Just because like her dream seems to change a lot. Not too long ago, she was really obsessed with like piercing. She wanted to become a piercer. She wanted to become a piercing apprentice and to like help like do piercings for money. And I haven't heard her talk about that in a long time. And by a long time, I mean like in a few weeks, because now she's really interested in like going to other countries. So it's kind of weird. And then Nani said, "Wow, I thought you guys were gonna stay together." And then Kel said, "You're trying to get a divorce?" He said, "Well, I hope it's cool and not like a whole problem. Why did you get married?" So when it comes to the marriage thing, right? Oh wait, John Mason said it was a good deal, so they took it. Yeah, so at the time, the same way that Maddie is really interested in going to like Costa Rica or Russia for 2 years now, where she's like really hype and you can tell it's something that she really wants to do. Maddie's interest in things wanes really quickly. So Maddie was super down for us to be married, and she seemed genuinely happy. And even though it seemed like a weird idea, I was like, what's the worst that could happen? You know, me and Maddie are really close friends. We hang out all the time, we talk all the time, and we do feel for each other. You know what I mean? And I was like, I'd be happy marrying Maddie. You know, living the rest of your life with your best friend as your life partner, there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like that actually is like totally fine to like have your best friend as your life partner. So I was down for us to like get married. She was the one who really pushed it though. She saw that the wedding ceremonies at the magic shop were only $50. She kept really pushing, like, do you want to do it? Do you want to do it? Do you want to do it? And I kept trying to reassure to make sure that like that's actually what she wanted to do. And I was like, are you down? She would never answer that question. She's just like, are you down? And you could tell she was excited. She says that like the marriage is like the happiest day of her life. Like that was like the happiest she's like ever been. Um, but then after we got married, uh, her parents were like, "You got to get it annulled," and then my dad was like, "You got to get it annulled." So we already knew that the marriage was going to end up having to end very soon. Like the next day, we like knew that we had to like end the marriage. So then we're going through the process of like having to end the marriage, but that doesn't mean that we don't feel for each other. And we were thinking that maybe we could like keep the relationship going. But then Maddie has like dated girls in the past. And Maddie was like, it's not that I don't feel for you, but I feel like I'm more romantically attached to women than I am into dudes. And then for a while, we weren't going to date after the divorce because Maddie was like, I'm going to try and pursue women again. And then that was no longer a thing after like a little bit. Me and Maddie had like another like rekindling, like reconnection kind of thing. And then from there, it was like, well, Maddie for a little bit was like, maybe we like shouldn't get the divorce and we should like stay married kind of thing. And I was like, that wouldn't really make sense. That's when we got to the part where it was like, maybe we'll just be engaged after the divorce. And now here we are, where it's like, yeah, just friends. Still best friends, still hang out all the time, still talk all the time, but not more than that. And Maddie's given me like her blessing to like pursue Danica. She gave me her blessing to pursue Danica like back when she was like she thought she was like more into girls. Ever since she left the more into girls train and was like, let's stay married, she still knows that I'm like pursuing Danica, and Danica still knows that I still like hang out with my wife Maddie. But Danica also knows that I'm like interested in Danica and that I do want to date Danica after the divorce. Me and Danica have talked about it. Danica knows that like I've talked about it with my wife and it's like an okay thing. So me and Danica are gonna like pursue like going on more dates, seeing if we're compatible and seeing if that we could be like boyfriend and girlfriend. Um, I graduate before Danica graduates, but Danica also works in cybersecurity. So if I had to move for work, it's likely that Danica also could just move wherever I went, and she could also like get a job there. So if we were to like date, we would be in a different situation because Danica is down to travel. She'd love to move somewhere. Me and Danica get along really well. We're both into like superhero stuff and cybersecurity. Um, and she's like, as long as I could like get work there, I could see that working, but it's not a guaranteed yes that she would move. She's like, I need to think more about that kind of thing before I like definitely dedicate myself to doing that, which makes sense. You shouldn't just jump into things like that. However, that is more or less what I did with the marriage thing, but I felt like I still feel like the marriage thing wasn't too big of a consequence. I still enjoyed the experience. I do love my wife. Me and Maddie, like I said, are still like really good friends, and I feel like the marriage was a good experience. I don't regret the fact that I got married, even though it was a quick step. I still don't think it was necessarily a bad step. Even though me and Maddie afterwards aren't together, I don't regret what happened. So then Nani said, "Oh hell no, Russia." He said, "That's good though. Break up now." But yeah, that's more or less what we've done. Me and Maddie are now just friends. We hang out, we talk. We're still really good friends, but you know, just probably not gonna like be a thing. And then Danica's been really supportive and really understanding.
Like she wasn't upset that I got married, and apparently she didn't know. I was surprised that she didn't know. She wasn't upset that I got married and she didn't know. She was totally fine with like still dating after the divorce. So after the divorce, Danica's interested in like going on dates again and everything like that. Me and Danica like talk and hang out. We make jokes and we talk about like superhero stuff. Like the stuff we talked about with Green Lantern, I imagine me and Danica could have talked about that like for hours, like as well. Like just me and her. She like reads comic books and stays up to date. She watches all the movies. She watches all the TV shows. She's really into the culture, and she's just like a fun person. So I mean, it's it may be the end of me and Maddie being like a relationship thing, but we're still like really good friends, and we continue to be good friends. We hang out just as much as we used to. We talk just as much as we used to. We haven't let this like set our friendship back, and then it opens the door for me and Danica to like potentially be a thing. So I don't see anything wrong with it. John Mason said it wasn't, to be honest. Nothing to regret. Yeah, it like legitimately just isn't like a regrettable thing. But yeah, that was today's vlog. I feel like I did a wrap up of my day to try and like summarize everything at the end of the video, but then we went on to like the Maddie Danica thing, and then just essentially became a whole other video. I think I just talked 45 minutes alone just on like relationship stuff. But I guess it isn't really a vlog if the relationship drama stuff doesn't come up. Because it is a big part of my life. It's like an ongoing arc. Speaking of ongoing arcs, I don't know how the Loa Trials thing is going with Maddie, because she's trying to get into voodoo, but she needs the support of the Loas, which are like the spirits of voodoo, to go into it. So she's going through the Loa Trials. That's a cool supernatural thing that's going on with Maddie, but I haven't heard much about that. Maddie's still interested in doing the paranormal crime fighting stuff, but we haven't done it yet. We want to do the candle spirit thing. I'm so hype about that. I just submitted my book for publishing, the Fire Spirit book, like Fire Spirit Superhero. I think the ebook is now available on Amazon. But man, I'm so hype about the Fire Spirit stuff. I hope that book does well. It's a collection of original series concepts and formulas based around Fire Spirit superheroes. The idea that like you can take a story of like a fictional character that died and then summon it in like a flame based off of a series of Australian experiments or whatever, which is really cool. Let's see. So John Mason said, "I'm glad you talked about it though." He said, "You got to get it off your chest." And then he said, "I want a voodoo doll of myself." Apparently, you can use voodoo dolls of yourself in order to like keep good experiences within you, which I think is like pretty dope. Then Kel said, "Well, I'm glad everything's Gucci. Good night now. Make sure to smash that like button and ring a ding ding that notification bell." Okay, have a wonderful night, Kels. Thank you for tuning in. John Mason said, "How much does it cost?" Oh, the Fire Spirit book, Fire Spirit Superhero. I believe it cost $4 for the paperback version, and it cost $2.99 for the ebook. If you get the paperback version, you get the ebook for free, so you just end up getting both. Um, if you buy the ebook, I make like $1. I make a little over $1. And if you buy the paperback book, I make like 25 cents. And then John Mason said, "Ha ha ha, lol Kells." And he said, "Nice." Now, what I'll need to do after the stream is I need to write Tangent's superhero story. I owe Tangent a 500-word superhero story, and I need to write it in the next 10 hours and 7 minutes. Uh, so I gotta make sure that I do that. Because you can buy superhero stories directly from me on Fiverr, or you can buy them as like books. And then John Mason said, "You make more money from the ebook?" Yeah, the way Amazon has it set up, um, you can get greater royalties off of an ebook than you can off of a paperback book. So you always will make more money if someone buys the ebook. If someone buys the paperback book, they get the ebook for free, so you make even less money. um, because if they just bought the ebook straight up, you would get like $1 and something. But if they bought the paperback book, it's like they get the value of both things. John Mason said, "Also, Nick, there's a lot to ask, but I need help setting up my account. Can you help someday?" for the publisher you use. That's actually really easy. I use Kindle Direct Publishing. If you have an Amazon account, you can use Kindle Direct Publishing. It's like that simple. I think the only thing that you need to include is like tax information. That way, when you make money through it, they're able to like tax you for the money that you make. But I've yet to make a significant amount of money through Kindle for it to be like you have to get it taxed. Because I think you have to make like a lot. Because we tried to get my Fiverr stuff taxed. Because on Fiverr, I've made like hundreds of dollars, and they're like, hundreds isn't enough to apply. Like, they're still like, it's like a hobby at that point. And I haven't made hundreds of dollars through selling books on Amazon. I maybe have made a little over $100, but I don't think I've made hundreds of dollars. Let's see. So, historical. Is this like all time? Yeah, if it's life to date. I've made like $42.45 in the US, $1.20 in GBP. I don't know what area that is. $13.95 from Europe, $1.93 from INR, $4.60 from I believe Canada, and then from AUD, I think that might be Australia. I made $7.91. Oh, right, because it's talking about the individual currencies. I see, because it's USD. So GBP is some kind of currency. So 42, if we round down, 42 plus 1, 43. 43 plus, that's 13.95. I'm going to say 14. 43 plus 14 is 57, plus 2, 59, plus 5, 64, plus 8, 68 plus 4 would be 72. I made about $72. So I made around a little over $70 selling books on Amazon. I don't really advertise my books, so I kind of rely on people to wonder upon them. But I love that. Because one thing that's weird is when you sell a lot of a good, but you sell it because people like you, not necessarily because people like your book. Because there's a difference between someone buying your book because they're interested in it and someone buying your book because they just like you as a person. So I don't promote my books as much because I don't want people to buy them just because they know me. I want people to buy them because they're interested in like the story or the game or the like magic. You know what I mean? So if any of you guys ever buy any of my stuff, please do it because you're interested in the stuff. Don't just do it to support me. I appreciate the support, but I would prefer that if you did support me in that way, you did so because it's something that you like. And then John Mason said, I wonder if I'll make that much from writing. I'm sure. I'm sure that you can, especially if you like actually market. If I was to actually market my book, I would make more money because that's the whole point of marketing is to like get it out there, let people know what you're selling. You know what I mean? So that people can know how to buy it. And then John Mason said, how do you advertise your work, or do you just leave it up on Amazon? I just leave it up on Amazon. I'll occasionally do videos where I'll promote my books. If I get really excited, I'll do a video where I'll promote a book. I know I did that when I wrote a book that was based off of Red Man, who's like a Japanese superhero. I took the Red Man concept and I created like my own mythology behind it, and I made my own character that was like inspired by it. And I got really excited for that, and I was really pushing that book. But it's a book of like questions and answers. It's not like a story. It's not even like a series concept and formulas. It's like a whole bunch of concepts that make up the series that are explained by me asking questions about what I want and then answering those questions. It's really weird. John Mason said, but what if they buy them because of both? That's fine. It's fine for them to buy it because of both. I just feel weird promoting it because I feel like I would get the most sales if I promoted it on Facebook. But I feel like I wouldn't get the most sales from Facebook because people actually cared about what I wrote. I think I get the most sales from Facebook because people just know me. You know what I mean? People are just buying it because like they want to support the fact that I'm writing, but not necessarily because they actually care about what I'm writing. And I would prefer that they actually cared than just if they want to support me just in general. But I'd like to thank you all once again for watching. I appreciate hanging out for so long, but I do need to start working on that superhero story for Tangent. 10 hours sounds like a long time, but I have to sleep at some point. Like, if I'm gonna sleep for 8 hours, that gives me like a couple hours to like write the story, and then I just like hard. John Mason said, last question. Would you spend 12 US dollars on a novel? Probably not. So when it comes to reading, I read comic books. I read comics like all the time. And even when I read comics, you can read comics online for free. So I normally will read comics online for free. And then if I really want to like support whatever the comic is about, I'll try and like buy like merchandise. Like I really fuck with Captain Atom. If I saw a Captain Atom T-shirt, I would like buy it, no doubt. Captain Atom's my favorite superhero. Of course, I want to support him. Um, Stuff like that. If I saw a Captain Atom action figure, I'd be like, fuck yeah, I want that Captain Atom action figure. I like to support it through that, buying merch that shows that that character is popular and that they should keep writing books about that character. You know what I mean? So I don't even buy the main type of book that I read. You know what I mean? I buy merch. Would I spend $12 on merch for a book that I really liked? Yeah, that's probably what I'd do. And John Mason said, true. Later, Nick. Ha ha ha. And good luck with the story. Thank you kindly, John Mason. I truly appreciate it. And John Mason said, right, right. By the way, uh, if anyone does want to support me through merchandise, because someone could easily say, well, if you feel that way, why would I ever buy any of your books, even if I do like them? What if I could just find your books online, Jet? What about that? Well, if you could find my books online and you really liked them and you wanted to somehow like show your support for the books, feel free to like hit up my Patreon and you can like give like money directly to me on Patreon and like post on Patreon like, hey, I really liked these books, write more books like that, and just give me money like directly, because that will support it and tell me what you're supporting. It'll tell me like what money, like why you liked it, and you don't even have to pay me. A matter of fact, if you give me $1 on Patreon, that's practically the same as if you bought the paperback book, uh, and it's like you bought the ebook 4 times over. So if you gave me like $1 on Patreon, if you like found my book online for free, that'd be dope. And I do have merch on the Zazzle store. I have a store called Honey Shark. I have a whole bunch of shirts and hats and shit like that that have pictures of sharks in front of honey. I know that's weird, but I went through a phase where I thought that was really cool. So, so if you want to buy random merch with sharks and honey, feel free to hit up the Honey Shark store on Zazzle. And then John Mason said, I'd honestly rather pay you directly the same price as the book on Amazon. That would actually be significantly more beneficial. If you paid me the paperback price, it's like four times four times that times eight. That's like 32 times the amount of money. Giving me $4 directly is 32 times the amount of money I get from you buying one copy of the paperback book. So yeah, that'd be dope. And then John Mason said, I thought you make more from it, to be honest. From selling books. I mean, Amazon has to take their cut. Because it costs me nothing but time to, like, make the book and publish it. It costs Amazon actual resources for them to host the book on their site for sale and for them to print paperback copies for people to buy. So, I mean, I understand the reason why they, like, take their cut. It's a pretty hefty cut. Oh, by the way, I have made more money from books than what I said. Uh, so I feel like I have misconstrued you guys a little bit. On Amazon, I've only made so much money. I've only made like 70 something dollars. But there's this website called Smashwords where I published books back when I was in high school. I wouldn't buy any of my high school books. Just buy the new stuff, please. I feel like the high school books aren't as good. They're definitely not as good. But I've made minimum like 50 something dollars off of Smashwords, but I've never given Smashwords my personal information. They need a tax identification number that I don't have because I've yet to actually have to do taxes. I'm still like under my dad for taxes. So I have to like wait to finally file taxes, which should be probably this year. Finally file my own taxes, and then once I get that number, I can like give it to Smashwords, and Smashwords can give me all the money they owe me. Smashwords probably owes me probably about the same as Amazon now, so I probably have made like maybe $140, like with books that I published online. So that is a thing. And then John Mason said true, and he said ha ha ha. So yeah. Also, I just refreshed the Fiverr page. I forgot. If you leave a Fiverr page open for too long, the timer fucks up and it shows you the wrong time. I realized it was wrong because as I was talking to you on the stream, it suddenly went from 10 hours to 3 hours when I looked away from the screen. And I was like, oh, the timer's off. I refreshed the page and I have 16 hours to write it, which means I could go to sleep for 8 hours and like still have time to like write it later. So I'm not under as much of a time crunch as I thought, but I still probably do need to like get to writing it soon. So I should end the stream. But I like to thank you all for watching. If you like this video, make sure to smash that like button, favorite, comment, subscribe, and ding ding ding, ring that notification bell to be notified whenever we do these live streams. This is your host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black, the one and only, logging out. I hope everyone has a wonderful night. Thank you again for tuning in. And don't worry, I'm going to keep doing these daily vlogs every night after midnight. Every night after midnight, you guys can come in, hang out, we all talk, have a good time. John Mason said, oh, damn, well, that's cool. He said, yeah, go ahead, and it was a great stream. Night. Ooh, have a wonderful night, John Mason. Thank you all for tuning in.